5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Okay, here we go. All right, welcome to another episode of You Can't Handle the Ploof. I got Brett Dumas by my side today, and we don't know where Matt is today. Yeah. Matt Griffin is MIA, no phone calls. I think we need to call the cops and find out where that bastard is.
Yeah, no ideas.
Shame on him today.
Taking it as a personal slight, really, to be honest.
And we have a special guest today. We have Marty Caproni today, stand-up comedian. An all-around funny guy.
I mean, let's not get crazy, but yeah.
So we're going to blow the top off.
They say it to everybody. They said I was funny when I first came out here, too.
Well, we said funny looking. There's a totally difference.
Yeah. So Matt not showing up is a new low light in my career. So thanks, Matt. Thank you for the self-conscious.
We waited. We're like behind schedule now, and we have 20 people in the room out there that are, they don't know what to do with themselves now.
Do we cheers to Matt?
Just, absolutely.
Cheers. Down man. Sorry.
So, what are we drinking tonight, boys?
So tonight we've had this one on here before. I cracked this bottle last week, if you remember, because my other one I think wasn't quite 750 milliliters. So Apothic Inferno, red wine blend aged in whiskey barrels for 60 days. So I'm again big fan of the
60 days. Wow, they're really putting it in there. They're really aging it.
They're like 61 days. Fuck that.
Did you get that at the Thunderbird Brewery or the Mad Dog 2020 Brewery? 60 days.
I got that at 7-Eleven.
Okay, that makes sense.
Well, a couple weeks ago we had one that was 6 months, and I can't do that every week.
Oh yeah, but you're too fancy out here.
Yeah.
Do you guys tell people where we're recording from, or do you not tell them what town we're in?
We've said it a few times. Yeah, I mean if someone,
because we're in Palmer, so like if anyone knows this town. 60 days is that's like a fine wine out here.
Oh yeah,
it's.
We usually make it out of high C like juice boxes, and then we just like jailhouse wine.
Yeah, I mean, we saved ourselves like the Capri Sun packets, and we went with the bottle.
And what do you got over there?
So this actually I happened to raid the wife's wine rack because I didn't usually I stop on the way here, and I was running a little late. So this is just Dreaming Tree, which I believe is like the Dave Matthews collaboration, Crush, which is a red wine blend. Red wine blend.
I'm gonna drink that and start a riot.
Yeah, I love him and hate him all at the same time. Like my wife is madly in love with him. I think she'd leave me tomorrow if
For Dave Matthews.
Absolutely,
that's hurtful.
Yeah,
and I won't listen to his music, but watching him live was a whole new different gig.
Sure, that's like Coldplay. If you've ever seen Coldplay, like you could listen to Coldplay, like, oh god, these British guys, whatever. But if you watch them live, you become a fan of them. They're intense.
Yeah, they're super technical musicians.
Yeah,
actually.
Yeah, and Dave Matthews is too. The only, like you say, the only problem is half of his concerts turn into riots. So
or just rampant underage drinking and people all falling all over themselves, which is one of the reasons I stopped going to those Dave Matthews shows, is because it was like, the kids weren't getting any older. It was like just 16, 17-year-olds every time I went.
Same thing, yeah.
Every time we saw him, I just say to my wife, "That picture of me up there, that's me right now."
Yeah.
And then when you get excited enough, let's go home.
Just burn that in your brain real quick. Let's get out of here.
So today, because my body hates alcohol, or my body hates me, I can't really tell the difference. But I found so there's a place in town called Luke's Liquor, Wine and Liquor. Well, actually, I think it's just wine and beer. I don't think he sells liquor, but non-alcoholic drinks are becoming a rage now.
Sure.
From what I understand, it's going to be $1 billion industry going into this year. So this is Well-Being. It's a non-alcoholic brew, Victory Wheat. So we're going to crack this bad boy today and see what this is all about.
It's a great thing to drink if you're trying to get yourself hassled by the cops, but know that you're not going to get in trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you get pulled over out here by the Palmer police or whatever, you can just be totally belligerent to them. Like, I smell alcohol. Like, well, I don't think you smell enough, You
can have like 6 of these cans.
Call them a pig. Just call them all sorts of names, and then when they're dragging you into the station, you blow a perfect 0.0. You're just like, thank you very much.
It would drop the mic to see. Get one of those little pocket breathalyzers. And so it says less than 0.5% ABV. So, and that's one of the reasons, I guess, why you still have to be 21 to buy a lot of these non-alcoholic brews.
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting to see how many you would have to drink in what period of time. I mean, I don't think I'm
You
going to
couldn't do
sign
it.
up.
You
I don't think
couldn't
I'm
do
gonna
it.
sign
Yeah, I
up
don't
for
think you
that.
could
It's
do it,
one
yeah.
proof. So let's like this is wine. This is probably whatever 12% alcohol or something like
Yeah.
that. So let's say you it takes you 3 glasses to get a buzz, right? So that's 3 8-ounce glasses. This is why I'm like Raymond. 3 8-ounce glasses at 12%. Now you figure that's a half of 1%. So you got to drink 24 glasses of 8 ounces to equal 1 glass of that. So you're gonna have 48 or 72 glasses of wine to try to get the buzz you could.
Well, that's a buzz. I'm talking about like where you would blow.
Over the legal limit.
Yeah,
Oh,
over
yeah.
the legal limit, because that's obviously much different.
Oh, you can tell I'm
depending
an
on the person.
alcoholic. Then you can tell. I was like,
Yeah.
is there any other goal other
yeah.
than being drunk?
No, believe me, I'm never
yeah.
getting a buzz off that either.
Yeah.
But to
not bad.
just to even have it start registering, where it might be an issue, I'd be interested to
It
see.
definitely tastes watered down a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like a watered down version of a microbrew.
Well, they take the alcohol out of it,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
you know.
So
I mean,
it's
I'm not
basically-
judging anybody if you're in recovery or whatever. Shout out to you.
Yeah.
I'm just saying,
Yep, I've been 2 years sober right now.
congratulations. not trying to make you feel bad about it. It's-
Yeah.
By the end of
you
this,
do
Jeff
you.
is
I'm
itching.
gonna
By the
have
end of
my
this,
wine.
Jeff is itching. Just one wine, just one. One day at a time.
I'm in the corner throwing up from withdrawals.
I feel bad because I started showing up with bottles of wine, and Jeff was sharing glasses with me every week for like 2 or 3 weeks, and then the next week he's like, "Yeah, my diverticulitis is back, so I can't have any alcohol."
Body hates me, man. We did that one bottle of Johnny Walker Blue, I believe it was.
Oh, that was when Keith Gordon.
yeah, that
see
was-
now where is that for me, buddy? That's you bust out the
guest brought it. I think
I get
didn't
the
he?
one. I
Yeah.
get the
Yeah.
1 week old room temperature wine. Everyone else is in here drinking Johnny Blue. Shit, I
It
love
was
Scotch.
awful. The next morning sucked, man. I rolled over in bed. I'm just like, I haven't got drunk in 5-6 years, you know. And that night was brutal.
Pretty funny story. So like when you're a comic and you're doing shows and you don't know the headliner you're working with, right? If you're opening, you don't want to take the first drink into the green room because a lot of comics might be in recovery, right?
Oh,
And
wow.
they might have it in their rider that they don't want alcohol in the green room, so you don't know. So not to name drop, but a couple of weeks ago, I'm doing shows with a guy named Jimmy Schubert. Shuby. This guy's one of the best comics in the world. He's hilarious, absolutely super. He's been doing like 35 years, open for Sam Kinison and everything, right? So I'm excited to do this weekend, and I got short notice called, like a day notice, not even a half day notice. I was like, yeah, I'm there. And I walk in the green room, I'm like, oh, God, I hope he drinks, man. I hope this guy drinks, Like, he's a 35-year vet. If I can get drunk with this guy, it's going to be the most fun. We're telling stories about Kinnison and shit, right?
Yeah.
And he comes into the green room with a Dunkin' Donuts cup, and I'm like,
He's not drinking.
shit. I'm like, I don't know if I can swear on this thing, but whatever.
Oh,
But
yeah, let her rip.
yeah, so I'm like, fuck,
There's
So-
a free speech zone in this
yeah.
room.
So he comes in with a Dunkin' Donuts cup. So I'm not saying anything, And the waitress comes in. And she's like, "Can I get anything for you guys?" And like the first round, he's like, "Yeah, just a little water or whatever." And I was like, "Yeah, I guess I got a bottle of water too." And then she comes back and she goes, "Can I get you guys anything else?" And he's like, "You know what? I could go for maybe like a vodka and soda if you got one of those." And I was like, "Yes!" And he goes, "What?" I go, "I saw the Dunkin' Donuts cup." I go, "It's one of two things. When you're 35 years into this, it's either you're sober or you're a raging alcoholic and you're just having that so you can stay awake to do the show because you're hungover already." And he's like, started laughing. And I was like, "All right, we're going to have fun. This is going to be a great weekend." We were drunk all weekend. It was great.
I'll tell you some of the stories with comedians and the drugs and the drinking.
Oh, my God.
It's insane. But at the end of the day, some of that stuff is what makes them be able to perform.
I mean, I'm not a drug guy. Like in college, maybe like, a little weed or whatever. But like, I'm not like a drug guy per se. Every once in a while, every once in a while, some black tar heroin. No, every once in a while, like,
Never hurt anybody.
like I hit a weed or like whatever, right? But it's funny now. It's gotten the business is cleaned up a lot, but like. Early on, man, I saw a lot of cocaine, like a lot of cocaine. I've never done it. I can't do it. I have an addictive personality. I know.
Yeah.
Like if I do one little bump of cocaine.
That's me. And we're going on a mad tear.
Dude, mad tear. Within like 6 months, I'm probably flying my own little small plane up from Colombia. I got $3 million in the wall of my house. I got some guy named Tito at the pool with an AK just guarding me. I know it's going to end there, so I won't do it. I don't judge people who do it. I've been around it and I've seen people do it, but it's not my thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Is
it hard to stay out of that?
I mean,
when you
not for me. I mean, not for me. I when I see it, I'm like, Well, I probably don't want to be like here. I remember when I first started comedy, and my daughter was a baby at home, and I remember I went into this hotel room. The owner of this club at the time, he's no longer a club owner, go figure, but he was like right out of Central Casting for like a comedy club owner from the 80s. Like he was, I remember one time, like I won't even say it. Well, I can say it now. She's dead. So there was one of the waitresses at this comedy club. Big fake boobs, the whole deal. She was just like flirt with every comedian or whatever. I left my jacket in the green room. We're sitting out at the bar having a couple of drinks. I go, I gotta get my jacket and get out of here. I get back to the hotel. I go to walk in the green room, and this girl and another girl that looks just like her are copulating.
Engaged.
With each other. Thank you. Engaged with each other. And I'm like, I opened it had curtains in the green. I open the curtains. I see it. I'm like, I close the curtains. I step back. I walk out and I go, hey man, I want to leave and my jacket's in the green room and this is what's going on in there. And he goes, bro, I'll get you a jacket. No problem. I go, thanks. So he goes, so I get another drink. I'm talking to the bartender or whatever. I'm like, dude, I really got to get out of here, you know? So now I'm like walking back and I'm like, I'm figuring like by now he's broken it up, you know, or whatever. And I open and then he's just part of the fun.
You're like, fuck it, can you just express that to me?
I go, what about my jacket? And he goes, hang on. He's like standing up with his hands. He reaches over, grabs my jacket, just hands me. I'm like, oh my God.
I knew exactly where you're going with that.
Yeah, but this same comedy club owner, not that weekend, a different weekend, he was like, hey, come to my hotel. You're staying in the same hotel as me. Come to my room. We'll have a couple drinks or whatever. And I walked into his room. And it was like right out of Central Casting.
Oh, wow.
He's wearing a robe. All right. I don't know if I should say that.
That's when you know.
It was like the Westin Hotel. All right. It's like a real fancy hotel, right, that we were in. He's wearing a robe and everything. I walk in and I'm ready to have I told him, he goes, you promised me you'll have 2 beers with me? I go, yeah, I promise you I'll have 2 beers. I walk in and it's like a suite he has. And so he hands me a beer. So I crack it and I immediately start drinking it. You know, I walk around the corner. And there are 2, what I can only assume are probably, I'm guessing maybe call girls or something. Like they definitely don't look like they should be hanging out with this dude,
you
right?
can pretty much peg those out like
yeah.
You know.
And they're topless and like making out with each other and everything. And I look over and on the table is a pile of cocaine as probably big as that candle. And I'm like, I don't know anything about cocaine, but I'm pretty sure that's enough cocaine that if someone came in, like the FBI came in here right now, I'm going to go to jail. They're going to be like, well, what happened to your daddy? Well, he went to jail for like a massive amount of possession of cocaine, even though he's never done it in his life. And I just like looked over at this scene. These 2 girls are like in the corner with it and they're like making out and, you know, and I just could get the second beer. And he goes, yeah. And he hands it to me. I take my car keys out. I just crack a hole in it, and I just cut out the biggest shotgun hole you ever seen. I can shotgun a beer faster than any person on the planet. I promise.
Oh,
you.
yeah?
Yeah. Did you ever see the Beer Bros thing that's a Facebook group? Are you guys in that thing?
No.
Oh, you should.
That's the one where they like people drop off beer to each other.
They drop that beer basket. Actually, the guys who founded, my buddy PJ and my buddy Taylor, they're like the founders, and PJ's wife Kim. They started that thing, and it's become a pretty big thing. I think it's like 17,000, 18,000 people or whatever. So they got their own little niche worked out. So I'm happy for them. But they shotgun beers on there all the time. They're like, I'm fucking shotgun beer, and I'm like literally like I just look at it. I mean, I'm old enough I could be half the people in that room's father, and I'm like, you guys shotgun like a bunch of pussies. Like you guys don't know how to shotgun.
He goes, let me see that right now. I'm going to teach you a lesson.
Right. But that's what I did. So I took the key. I shotgunned the beer as fast as you could. I go, hey, man, thanks a lot for having me. Appreciate it. I walked right out. He's like, all right, that's it. That's all. I was like, yeah, that's it. You know, I didn't want to be in a scene of Miami Vice. Thanks. I just wanted to have a couple beers after the shows.
Yeah, you get that next picture, you're like this.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. You know, so yeah, this you see it in spurts and crazy moments and stuff like that. But, you know, generally now the business is a much cleaner business. It's more, you know.
Some of the stories I'd love to hear is Joey Diaz talking about.
That's so funny. You love Joey. So.
I do. He's a great guy, and his stories and they're all true.
Like,
the shit this guy's done, like he kidnapped a guy, threw him in his trunk.
Yeah.
Like all sorts of crazy shit.
Joey's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you ever get a chance to listen to him, unreal.
Well, I'll tell you. So the girl I tour with, who's like my best friend, we call each other brother and sister. We've toured together for, I don't know, 6-7 years.
Oh, wow.
And we've known each other for 8 or 9. Her name's Jessie Mae Peluso. Shout out to her. I love her. I love you, Jess.
Shout out to Jess.
She's the best. She's literally like we go on the road. We do all these crazy shows and everything. She's probably been the biggest proponent for my career since I've started. And so she had me on this past Wednesday. She does a thing called Weeds Day on her Facebook Live, where it's like comes on at like, I don't know, I think it's like 10 Eastern time or something like that. And she smokes weed. She's a big weed person. She smokes weed or whatever. I have a couple of beers or whatever, or seltzers or whatever I have, and we talk and goof around. And Joey Diaz called in while we were there. So if you watch this past week's one on her thing, it's Joey like, let me tell you something, motherfucker, fucking, you know, the way he talks. It was that was a cool moment because I mean that guy's a legend too.
You literally fall in love with him just by hearing his stories. Like he seems like the most genuine guy, and he's a lovable guy. Like if he loves you, he loves you.
Yeah, he checks in with Jess like all the time, like just making sure which matters to me because it's like someone checking on your baby sister or something. Sure. You know what I mean? Like it matters to me that like him and Rogan and those guys are like they look out, for someone that like they're all good people. That whole crew. He's a beast on stage too. Everyone's told me
he is.
Yeah, everyone's told me, and not just comics, because sometimes comics will they stroke each other off like this guy. Blah, blah, blah. But friends that I have, fans of comedy that have gone to see him, are like, I've never laughed harder in my life. I had one guy tell me he shit himself watching.
That's the best.
I'm like, you really had to be funny for someone to openly admit like I shit myself.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's very, very funny, dude.
So you did business with Sam Kinison?
No, God, no. Jeez, I haven't been doing comedy that fucking long.
That guy was a legend, man.
Yeah, no. Jimmy Schubert, the guy I was telling you, is my buddy that I met. We're since I love the guy, but it was only like 3 weeks ago or whatever. But we did 6 shows in Rhode Island together. But he used to tour with Sam. He was Sam's opener on tour for like 5 years. Yeah. Who's your
most favorite person to do work with?
Oh, to work with, it's got to be Jess. I mean, she, like I said, it's the most fun. It's like going, like we haven't seen each other in a year. It's like not seeing your sister for a year. It's tough.
It's tough. This whole Corona has really fucked things up.
Yeah. So her and my buddy Mike Hanley, who a lot of people in New England know, but people maybe outside of New England don't know. He's pretty YouTube famous. He's got he did a video called "The Dancing Dad" with his daughter at their bar mitzvah that blew up. He was on the Good Morning America and all that stuff. But Mike Hanley, he's another one. I had a blast. I have a blast with a lot of. The hardest I've ever laughed in a green room was probably with Tracy Morgan. Jim and Jim Brewer probably. They just like my stomach hurt for like 2 or 3 days after. Like I did an ab work. Like it sounds cliche, but like I did an ab work. Like just like tears laughing. Some of those guys. But yeah, Jess by far and I got a few that I really enjoy. If I start naming, it's gonna be like the name drop podcast.
Do it. Let's go.
Nah,
can't be scared.
I'm sure there's probably an equal amount, and you don't have to name drop these that you're just like you dread. If you get on that ticket.
Not really. It's a weird. So in comedy, you learn early on that there's small pond, big fish. Like you have when you're starting out, it's like crabs in a bucket. Everyone's trying to get over everyone. Everyone's guilty of it. I've been guilty of it where. You fuck that guy. Fuck the guy who thinks you, especially in New England. I don't know what it is. Culturally in New England, comics are always like, he can't follow me. It's like follow me is like a big thing or whatever, And it's like you get to a point in this where you're like, look, if I can't follow you, I can't follow you. It's either a bad night or you're funnier than me or whatever it is. Knock yourself out. Like you don't care. But early on, everyone's trying to make that impression. Everyone's trying to climb their way out of that bucket. So there's a lot of guys who become dicks and dickheads. I've had, in the regional scene, I've had plenty that I've gone at odds with, but on the national scene, man, not even a handful.
Wow.
I could name them, you know what I mean?
Really?
Yeah. Most of them are really cool. And the ones that aren't, they're usually not what you would consider a comic. They're usually a form of celebrity outside of being a comedian that they also were a comedian.
Right, yeah.
But anyone who does this job for a long time, a decade or longer, it beats you down. It grinds you out, and it becomes it's a brotherhood and a sisterhood. Even if you don't like somebody or you don't respect them on stage, and that guy's been doing it 12 years, you still got to respect the fact that he's been through what you've been through. It's like it's not a lot of people can understand that, you know.
Yeah.
And not a lot of people you can't sit around with a lot of people and be like, oh man, you do the crackers in Broad Ripple, Indiana. Oh yeah, the fucking quality in there. That's fucking weird. I make you wait till 3 to check in. Like that's shit when you have someone else to talk about it. Even if you hated that person, is like awesome because you live that experience by yourself, you know. And then when you get to experience with someone else, like talk about it. It's a bond, it's a bonding thing.
Did you ever do that place where the 2 waitresses and the club owner were banging when I was trying to get my coat? Yeah, it happened to my coat too.
Here's the weird part. Any of my comedian friends in New England watching this are literally saying the name of the place and the owner right now while they're watching it.
Yeah.
100%.
You know, like if you hear comedians talk about the Hookie Lao.
Yeah.
I went to this place in Chicopee, the Hookie Lao. And
Hookie Lao is a legendary place, not just in New England, but nationally. If I had a nickel for every time I met somebody, like a bigger name, and they go, so where are you from? What are you, New York City? You're like, no. Boston? Sort of. Like, where? Western Mass. They're like, Western Mass? What's in Western Mass? I go, I live in Chicopee. Oh, shit, the Hookie Lao. You know the Hookie Lao. Oh, that poo-poo plat is crazy. Like they jump right in on it. You know?
So I'm pretty blessed. Those guys are friends of my family.
Yeah, the Yees, they're good people.
I just saw Nikki. Shout out to Nikki.
Yeah, Nikki
we were
Yee.
at Johnny's Grill a couple weeks ago, and I love that guy. I haven't seen him in a long time, but I like I said, when I was such a little kid, my dad used to go in there all the time.
Sure.
And there was Mr. Yee at the counter, and
Johnny.
You couldn't ask for a better family. They're so giving. They're just phenomenal people, and I will never have enough time to tell them how much I'm thankful for what they did for us. I got married to my wife because of Johnny, the bartender.
I thought you were going to say you got married at the Hookie Lounge.
Yeah.
Like, that's a
no,
we were
thinking about my cousin did.
$7.95, all you can eat. Go ahead. That's the meal.
Yeah, no,
right
Johnny
in the middle of the Polynesian show.
Johnny, the bartender, was pouring my wife drinks before she was my wife, giving me the old wink. I'm like, you can't roofie her, dude. I can't get arrested.
That's funny.
You know.
Yeah, man. Johnny, Mrs. E, those they were Bonnie, all of them.
Great
I
people.
think. Yeah, Andy. I felt bad because he had some health issues and I didn't even know about it. I was on the road so much, and then it's like one of those weird things. Someone tells you about it, but they fucking tell you about it
after.
Like it's like now it's like a year and a half later. You're like, well, what am I going to call him up and be like, hey, it's like that's the one thing that does suck when you're on the road all the time. Is I had another friend of mine whose father passed. We don't really speak, but his father passed, and my buddy never called me, and I was on the road, and he told me like 3 months later, and it's like, well, now what do I do? I can't pay my. It's like, you know what I'm saying? It's like a weird. There are weird sacrifices you make in this career, and that's one of the ones that irks me the most. Is not being able to do like a funeral or a wedding or someone's sick and you find out way later or whatever. But to your point, the Hookies, R.I.P. to the Hook. But you can still get. I don't know if you know this. I'm going to give you a little Chicopee inside information. You can still get some Hookie Lao food.
Can you really?
What? Nose place.
What was your favorite food? Yeah, you nailed it.
Oh, I know.
Well,
stole my big reveal. Bro.
Johnny's Grills definitely had some. They had the steak Mariano.
Sure.
So do you remember?
Yeah.
Do you remember the Say When Cafe?
Yes.
The old Say When.
So it got taken over
By now. Do you remember now? Used to be at the Hookie Lao?
Absolutely.
You come in, I
she was
guarantee
one of the
she's
best
like,
waitresses
Jeff,
ever.
How are you?
Yeah.
So now's place, and Jack is over there cooking, and I went the other night. I got salt and pepper wings.
Oh man.
Yeah, the old salt and pepper wings.
And
road trip. We are doing it.
It's better.
You think it's better?
I think it's better. Well, you know what? I think what I like about it is it seems fresher. It's like made to order.
Now, I'll tell you another one. Now, Kenny, who used to be the bartender at Hookie, Kenny opened a place. I just went there the other day. Kiyomi.
Kiyomi. That one, yeah.
And it's unbelievable. I went there. Unbelievable. Food's a little different than the Hook, but in a good way. You know what I mean? You're not like, this is
on it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, the food's delicious there. You know? It's funny to see how they've diversified and grown. They're in partnership with the Picknellies now, so they have and for people who don't know what that is, the people who own Peter Pan Bus Lines, they're billionaires.
And the White Hut.
Yeah, another good fan. So two Western Mass powerhouse families come together, and now the White Hut. They rescued that. They rescued
Student Prince in the Fort.
Student Prince, the Fort downtown.
And that's I think one thing that aside from them being good people, they're saving these iconic businesses of Western Mass.
That's huge.
These businesses have been around for 100+ years.
Let's be honest. They're also going to make a shit ton of money doing it.
Oh, there's no question.
God bless America.
If you know Andy, he's not Mother Teresa. He's not like, let's just do it for the good of this. Andy's going to make money. He figures out a way to make money. You know?
But there's different ways to do it, and just
Right.
say, well, we're just going to raise this building
Right.
and build something new,
Yep.
And rebrand it.
I'm telling you, the nights that we went there, and we went there all the time. I mean, especially back
Dude,
in the
if you
day.
go in some of my old boxes and cabinets at my house, that there are a million Hukilau theme glasses. They used to give you the theme glass, and I got plenty of them.
Yeah.
So I'll bring you so during the closeout tag sale they
right,
had,
yeah.
I bought a couple boxes of the matchbooks. So I'll bring you some for some
nice.
posterity. But
Yeah.
Jeff knows, I think I brought this up the first time I was here. I bought one of the giant fish tanks.
No, you did
One
not.
of the 300-gallon tanks, yeah.
Holy shit. You guys are both fish guys, huh?
I don't want to
Yeah.
be anymore. I want out.
Ironically enough,
That's like looking at my ex-wife the whole time. Like, it was cool at the time. And I just want her gone.
You want
know?
it gone?
I ended up selling it because it was too big and heavy to get it where I wanted to.
300
in my
gallons
house.
is like a swimming pool, dude.
Yeah, it's 8 feet
Yeah.
by 2 feet by 30
What did you put in
inches.
it?
I never. Sat in my garage.
Sharks.
You didn't even put anything in it?
No, because it was supposed to go in my basement, but I couldn't get it down into my basement.
You kind of have a serial killer look about you. I feel like maybe you got that so you could chop up a body and put it in the
That's
tank.
exactly. Yeah. Well, I used
He goes,
it.
how much cement would this take
Yeah,
to fill with
yeah.
a dead hooker?
I used it for lie baths.
Yeah. Perfect. For those of you listening at home, it's a great way to kill somebody.
It's like,
Oh shit!
hey,
Did
do
I
you know
just?
Brett Dumas? Yeah. What does he look like again?
Yeah.
Well, he looks like a serial. Oh, I know who he is. Yeah.
Live bath and a belt sander.
So have you always wanted to be a comedian? Like, how did that transition start?
So when I was a kid, young kid, on Friday nights, the treat was I could stay up later, and that's back when we didn't even have cable, I think, probably then. I didn't think we didn't get cable like 6th or 7th grade at my house. My parents were holdouts.
Oh yeah.
But my dad would watch Carson. And then on some of the Friday nights, he would have on stand-up comics. And that was like a cool thing. I remember watching like Stephen Wright and a few others that I saw, Don Rickles, and I was like,
Oh, Don Rickles, man.
yeah. I almost got the chance to open for him too. It's one of those fucking regrets. But whatever it does. But yeah, so I would watch those things and I'd be like, dude, that seems like such a fun thing I wanted to do. Me and my buddies would sit in my house when I got a tape recorder. Remember the old cassette deck,
yeah.
like a boom box, and we would record our own little radio shows and do all that nonsense, try to be funny. And I always wanted to do it. And it just seemed bigger than life. Like you didn't know where to start. It was like, well, if I don't go to New York City, I can never do this, When I was in college, I booked all the comedians for my college.
Oh,
so
wow.
like I booked like, Jeffrey Ross before he was Jeffrey Ross.
No kidding.
He used to
Yeah.
be Jeff Lipschwitz, I think. I think I booked him like $500 back in the day. But like I was around it, and even then when I booked people, they'd be like, hey, can you just do me a favor and go out and talk to him for a minute? You're a pretty funny guy. We went to dinner. Go out and talk to him. So I was doing that stuff. Then I have a friend who had a bachelor party. He hired this guy. He's a real funny Boston comic, Tony Machetto, and he hired him, and he was like, hey, we don't have an opener. He's not bringing it, but I told him you're really funny and you're going to do 5 minutes. And I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. So I went out, but people started laughing, and I was like, I remember the rush, and I was like, oh my God, this is it. It's a crazy rush. And I got such a rush that I forgot his name. So I'm like, please welcome your comedian, because I didn't know anything. And so that was it. That was the end of my journey into comedy. And then one day, I don't know, it was over a decade ago, 12 years ago, maybe 13 years ago, I was at the gym at Health Tracks in West Springfield. And
I used to go there.
yep. And
I had a membership.
I was making everyone in the lobby laugh, and a guy who's now since become one of my dear friends, but he was a comic. He was more of like an open mic guy, but like, he was like, hey, I'm a comic. So everyone was like, he's like a big deal comic, and he has stage names so no one knew,
Yeah.
And they were like, hey, to my friend, I'll give him a shout out. I don't care. They were like, hey, Dario, this guy, he's the guy who gave me my start, really, when I think about it. But they were like, hey, Dario, this guy's really funny, man. He'll give you a run for your money. And he's like, oh, you think you're funny? He's like, you want to follow me next week? And I was like, sure. I didn't know what that meant. So
Right.
He took me out to a show on the Tuesday. He had the whole gym come out. There's like 40, 50 people. They all came out and did the show, and I just went up after him and I just drank like 5 beers and told jokes that make my friends on the golf course laugh. And my buddy Orlando Baxter, who was running it, who since he became like almost like my sensei, he's still like a mentor to me in a way. He came up to me and he was like, hey, this is really like the first time you did it. I'm like, yeah, it's like the first time I ever like really like did it. And he was like, if you keep doing this, you can make it a career. And that's all I needed to hear. I was like,
Wow.
I'll do whatever you say. So for the next God knows how many years of sleeping in rest stops and losing money and everything else, I busted my ass so that I could try to trying to make it into a career.
Yeah, I don't think people realize the scraping you have to do to get to that level. And I mean,
when you talk about that journey, that's one of those things that
entertainment industry as a whole.
Yeah.
You know, it's
that's one of those journeys where like that's when I talk to people where you've done the thing, and there's different ways to do it. There's different challenges. You know, people who start out in New York City, you know, they're barking to get people in clubs, and they're doing shit open mics, but they're doing 5 of them a night, but 2 minutes a pop, or they're paying for stage time or whatever. In New England, it's different. It's more like a road thing. You scratch your way out of an open mic to a guest spot, and you scratch your way from a guest spot to someone giving you a host at some Legion Hall thing, and you scratch your way out of that to a feature spot or something else, and you just kind of slowly progress your way up to where you're headlining. And you know, there's a million levels and steps to this, and anytime you think that you're like, I've got it figured out, there's another level and another step.
So did you have anything else that you wanted to do when you were a kid? Like,
or what did you do before? What were you doing before that? Because 12 years ago isn't that long.
I mean, so my original, when I was a kid, I wanted to be a veterinarian. I wanted to help animals, you know. And then my father, as supportive as he always was like, you realize that means you're gonna have to kill dogs.
Oh Jesus.
I was like, oh, my most favorite thing in the world, I have to kill them? Like, that's good. You know what I mean? Like, what are you talking about, you psychopath?
Sign me up.
He's like, when you're a veterinarian, you got to put dogs to sleep. And I was like, but I don't want to do that. I want to help them. He's like, well, you're going to have to put them to sleep if you want to help them. I was like in 4th or 5th grade. I had all A's. So once he told me that, I was like, well, fuck school. You know, I don't need to go to vet school. So I just tanked school from that point on until college. But when I got out of school, when I got out of college, I went into business. I went to school for communications and stuff. I had a radio show in college and all that stuff.
Oh, did you really? Yeah.
Yeah. And then I went into business, and I was in that for a while. And then I went into advertising and real estate and all that. And when I was, coming up, you don't just start comedy and magically you're a full-time comic. You work. My first 2 years, I had a real estate business and a job. I was running the Northeast for an outdoor advertising company. So like I would, it's funny. I had to get all my business done. So I would drive out, 5 nights, 6 nights a week. Got a baby at home, so like I would basically balance everything, and I would sleep 2 hours a night in the Charlton rest stop on the Pike.
Wow.
I'd come home. I'd maybe get another hour of sleep if I was lucky. Shower up.
Yeah.
Take care of the baby in the morning if I had to bring the baby to get the diaper changed or whatever. Like I would do that stuff, and then I would head out, go to my office, talk to my assistant, get all my stuff squared away for that, then go do my real estate stuff in the afternoon, go home, get something to eat, take an hour nap, get back in the car and drive out to Worcester or Boston or wherever I was doing a mic and do that. And I did that for, years.
Yeah.
And the weekends came and you'd be like, oh, it's the weekend.
It's a challenge.
You got to spend a weekend with the kid and everything. You're doing all that. And then you're like, everyone, what an exhausting day. We did the zoo, we did this. And you're like, yeah, all right, thanks. As you're putting your shoes on to get in the car to drive out to do a VFW haul in New Hampshire for, 10 minutes or 5 minutes, and, it really takes a delusional belief in yourself. And just you really have to have some sort of weird sickness to be like, yeah, I think I'm going to be the guy that does this. Like to have that, but.
Well, you never know. I mean, especially nowadays. Do you find it that comedians have it easier with YouTube, all that stuff, versus when you started? Because you really had to grind to get your name out there.
I mean, look, everyone has to grind, but and my name's not really out there that far. If I had a decent TikTok or a freaking YouTube, I'd probably be much more successful than I am. But it's easier now, and I'll tell you why. When I started, not to be like, back in my day, we had to go up the hill both ways. When I started, there wasn't a lot of comedian groups on Facebook.
Right.
Now, like an example, I was doing shows in Manhattan, Kansas, and I was like, oh man, I got this joke I want to warm up. It's a corporate show. I was able to find that there's a comedy community in Manhattan, Kansas, in the middle of Kansas. It's called the Little Apple. It's a town of 30,000 people, but there's a comedy community there, and they're like, yeah, we have an open mic at this place. You can find where the open mic is. Before Facebook groups for that, there was no finding. You had to find one open mic, and then you would say, so where are you from? And you'd be like, oh, I'm from Connecticut. And you'd be like, oh, I'd love to do Connecticut sometime. Well, yeah, we have an open mic in Hartford on Tuesday nights, every third Tuesday at, Shucky McShuck place or whatever. And then you go over there and you do that open mic and you meet a couple other people and they're like, oh yeah, I drove in from here. And that's how you networked, and that's how you got your way into open mics, and that's how you got your way onto shows, and that's how you made your name. Now, you're a new kid, you can just literally be like, New England comedians. Oh, hey guys, I want to be a new comedian. Some other new comedian be like, hey buddy, we'll get yeah. Even advice, like these things, podcasts and stuff like that. Advice used to be given out by veteran comics in a green room, and they would only give it if they liked you. If they didn't like you, you'd be like, is there anything I should know? I'm like, nah, you're doing great.
Keep doing what you're doing.
I had so many times when I know I was doing just horse shit on stage, and the comics just hated me. Like, nah, bro, you're killing it. And I'm like, thank you.
Doing
Mom must be killing it. And now you look back at it, you're like, you son of a bitch. Like, but it used to be those tips were valuable because you could save years off someone's development by giving them 1 tip or 2 tip. Then podcasts came out, and every veteran comic and all of us go on podcasts, and people are like, so what's some good advice? And we go, blah, 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 blah. And now it's like a little knowledge in the wrong hands is a dangerous thing,
Sure.
There's these new kids with like all this veteran knowledge from famous people and other people that doesn't apply to them. It's fucking up all their developments and everything else.
Yeah.
But they do get some tips. At least back in the day, you were just flying blind. It wasn't until somebody told you like, but you can't do that, bro. Like I had a buddy of mine when he started. He didn't even know that, like, I knew off the hand, like, you can't take someone else's jokes or material. Right. But this kid who I'm friends with, he's a very funny comedian. He's a funny comedian now. He didn't know. For about 1.5 years, the kid, he was doing Eddie Murphy's set.
Oh. That's a whole different thing than, like, taking someone's music and doing a cover. That's,
But he didn't know any better. No one told him. He's a funny guy. He makes me laugh. He's hilarious. He didn't know. He's like, I didn't know at the time. I didn't know. It's just like people didn't tell. But you learn. It's like the old story when someone hires you too, and they're like, hey, how much is it? And you're like, well, it's going to cost this. And they're like, the lady I work with, her son, he just started comedy, and he said he can get a lot of people and do it for this. And you're like, well, you should probably do that then. Yeah. I want you to do that. I would like you to do that. I would like you to charge $30 a ticket and then get some kid who's been doing 2 years and let me know how it works out for you. It might work out fine. Yeah. It might. But if it's going to go sideways, you're going to need somebody who's done, I don't know, a few thousand of these things to kind of know how he can pull it back in and adjust on the fly. And it's like a plumber. You don't pay the plumber for that 1 hour he's working on your toilet. You pay him for all the toilets he worked on before to get the knowledge to do that.
Yeah. Like my plumber, I just had a whole bunch of plumbing stuff done. I had some mini splits put in, and he first day he met me, he's like, listen, man, I'm not the cheapest.
Right.
I'm not the most expensive, but it's going to cost you because you're paying for my time. You're paying for my knowledge.
Yep.
The more you work with me, the better I get. If you're a one and done, this is going to be my price. So I think we've done like $15,000 or a little bit more than that worth of plumbing in here.
I was going to say, it sounds like the guy was just softening you up to really bang you. He was really going to bang you out.
Get that repeat business. Like, no, the next one's when you get to get good discount.
He's like, by the way, you're paying me for my knowledge. Like, I'm just asking you to change one little part. It's
what I love about him is, like, I'll call him. My water main was going one day. Literally had a hole in the water main.
Oh, that's not good.
And I went to go turn the water off, and it's not moving. I'm like, oh, no, man. So I call him up. He's like, I can't make it out there for 2 days.
Oh, my God.
He goes, send me a picture of it. So I sent him a picture of it. He goes, no, you're good. We got at least a week with that hole. And he was dead on. He comes 2 days later, changes the whole thing over, and then we noticed that we had old piping that is illegal now. So, of course, I'm not ready for that part of the bill.
Yeah, sure.
But he said to me, he goes, I'm going to change that out. If you want to catch me next time, that's fine, because we didn't expect that. I should have asked you what was beyond that pipe.
Yeah.
And I said, no, go ahead, do it now. And he had it done. And he was in and out of here in no time. And that's what I like to see. When the emergency happens, it's like your best friend. Like, are you going to be here when I need you?
Right.
And there he is. So.
Well, I would make this argument that plumbers and electricians and tradespeople are more valuable than anything I could do. At the end of the day, as much as comedians like to think, like, we like to talk about ourselves because it's a cool job, or we like to talk about ourselves like with some sort of crazy reverence. I mean, in the grand scheme of fucking life, I ain't. I'd probably be better off career-wise if I was a plumber, and.
But could you live with yourself though, knowing now, like?
Yeah, now I could. Yeah, I'd be a great plumber.
There's very few plumbers or electricians that I know.
I'd have 3 crews. I would be on a fucking fishing boat, just casting, sending them out. Yeah, no. Yeah. you do have a thing like when you do this this is like the pandemic right now that we're in is going to thin the herd. There's a lot of people aren't going to come back because, you know, you don't realize it when you're doing it. The years tick away and you don't realize that, like, you know, you're never around on weekends. You're never around for like your friends' parties. They're getting married, this and that. And they still love you and they're still your friends and you still love them and you're the friend, but then they just know not to call you anymore because like, oh, you know, I know he's going to be working. Yeah. And then it hurts the one weekend that you're home, you got nothing going on, and you like open your Facebook and you see like your old best friend had a fucking barbecue and it looked amazing. And you're like, but you didn't even ask me. And you only do that, you make that mistake like twice and they just go, yeah, but you never ever did any other. And you're like, yeah, that's right. That's fair. You should forget.
But I still want you to ask. And then you just give
but
that
you realize you can't be mad at them. You really have to be mad at yourself because you're the person that chose that weird life. That's what it is, you know. And you miss a lot with it.
Yeah. So when you're on the road, like, what does that look like for time?
It depends on where you're going. You know, you know, there are road gigs that are sweet. They're freaking, you fly in, fly out, direct flight, hour in, hour out. You know, you can do down and back some days. You know, if it's college, sometimes you can bang them out one day. And then there's other ones where, like, you know, like probably like the farthest I've gone, like in the continental United States, is Edmonton, Canada. Like,
oh, wow.
So Edmonton, Canada is like way up, almost near Alaska, you know.
I didn't know the Canadians had a sense of humor.
Oh, they're great.
That's very new to me.
Are you kidding me? Canadians are great.
Shout out to my sister who's a Canadian citizen. That's where that joke came from.
I love.
She's a dual citizen.
I love some Canadian. Good for her, man. I wish I could get dual citizenship right now. This country. Okay. But you know, that's way up, almost near Alaska. So like so I get up at like 2:30 in the morning, 3 in the morning. I got to get in my car. I got to drive out. My buddy lives in Saugus, so it's take 2 hours out to his place, you know. And then you hit traffic. You're like, it's 4 in the morning. Why is there fucking traffic on the pike? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, there's a bunch of other assholes like me, right?
Yeah.
And so I go to his place in Saugus. He'll let me park my car in his driveway. And then he's an angel, so he'll give me a ride to the airport so I don't have to pay parking at the airport. And then you fly out. Your flight's leaving at like whatever, you know, 5:45, 6 in the morning. And you fly to usually you fly to like Minneapolis or Toronto or Seattle. Seattle a lot of times on the way back, but those are long flights, and then you have to change. If you go to Toronto, you're fucked. You're probably gonna miss your flight because you get into Toronto and you literally have to run like 2. You have to run like 2 miles in the airport, just to even have a prayer to make it through like customs and all that shit, you know. And you fly from there. It's like you're flying again. So, but it's about on the way there, it's usually about a 15 to 16 hour travel day for me. And then like if I go on the early night, I have to headline the early show before Jess gets in. So that's like a Wednesday night. So you get in off 16 hours travel and you got to go on stage and try to be funny. And I'm not a draw. So it's not like I walk in there and there's like 300 people chant my name ready to laugh. It's like 30 to 50 people who are like, this fucking guy better be funny. You know, they're wasted.
I got here early for the good parking.
Yeah, yeah. Well, because the comedy club I do, which is House of Comedy at the Edmonton, the best people in the bit. I love them, Tammy and Rick. They have a bunch of locations, but they're in the West Edmonton Mall, which is one of the biggest malls in the world. It has an amusement park inside the mall. It's got a fucking sea aquarium.
That's the one that trumped Mall of America, isn't it? Because Mall of America was
they have one in Mall of America too. Same comedy club. They have an indoor amusement park in it and everything. So, you know, they get people that just are walking by and they're hammered and they're like, well, let's go see a comedy show. Those are the people you want on a Wednesday when you've traveled 16 hours.
Your daytime mall drinkers.
Yeah, I don't know if this is that funny. And you're like, oh shit, man. You're like, I had something else I wanted to say to this prick, but I can't remember because I'm literally dizzy from flying this whole time, you know? And then you do that show, and then like sometimes the new kids are like, "Hey, we have an open mic. We really want you to do it." And you're like, "Well, I don't want to be addicted to the kids in the area. They're local, you know." So
right.
Then you got to go there, and then they bill you like, "Oh, this guy, he's at," and so then, and you're like, "Dude, just like it's an open mic, so I'm gonna do all new stuff and bomb. I hope that's okay with you, you know." But by the time I get back, it's like a 22, 26 hour day of being up, and then you go to bed, and then you wake up the next day. Jess and I do it, and then we wake up Friday. We have to do radio or whatever appearances you have to do, like 5, 6 in the morning. You have to get up. It is not I'm not. Listen, if you're a plumber or you're a roofer or something, my job it doesn't even come close.
It's a different kind of stress.
But I can't even complain about it because I love it so much. And when I do catch myself pissy walking through the airport with my bag, I stop and I force myself. I stop and I go, hey man, this is what you dreamed. You're one of your biggest goals when you started was someday I'm going to get on a plane to go do comedy. That was like a big thing, you know?
Right. So
you do have those like moments where you have to catch yourself and check yourself or whatever, but it is it's stress, but it is a job. That's the one thing you try. Like I try to explain that to like family or friends. Like by the time I come home on Monday morning or whatever, and I've been gone since Wednesday, and it's just like, well, now you're back. You gotta do that. You're like I'm exhausted.
Yeah, your honey-do list never ends, man. I don't care who you are.
Just the 2 and down is 32 hours, baby. You know, and then I did shows in between and media and hanging out and taping podcasts and doing. Like it can be a 50 or 60 hour a week all in. You know, while you're doing it.
Yeah.
You know, which sounds crazy because you're on stage. If you're headlining, you're on stage. You know, like when Jess says that's like 45 minutes, maybe an hour a night. You know, or 2 shows, 2 hours. And when you're middling, it's like 25, 30 minutes.
It's all stuff in between.
So you're like, it's like an hour of stage time that day. But then to do that hour of stage time, if you amortize all the travel and all that stuff over the course, you look like a crazy person. You look insane. But that hour that you're on stage that night is what you did it all for.
Right. Yeah.
You know, in that moment, you're like, this is what I do this for.
Yeah.
You know. And there's good days and bad days. You know, you get done shows. We were talking about upstairs. People come down. And it's like, I don't really like what you say. You know, that happens. You know.
Yeah.
But for every 5 or 6 of those, you'll get one person that comes up and they're just like, hey man, my brother died of cancer like 3 months ago, and I haven't laughed since he died. And tonight you made me laugh so hard.
That's amazing.
And then you're like,
yep.
Those are the ones where you drive home or you fly home. You're like. You feel a little bit like I feel like really good about this choice. You
got those kids like Chris Bordeaux that come up to you after the
your sponsor.
That was so funny. So before we get into it, Bordeaux and Sons Flooring for all your flooring needs.
Yep.
And walls too. Let's not forget he did
the walls.
He told me as part of his sponsorship he wanted me to call you a bald fuck and said he can't believe you sell a hair product as a bald guy. You must be a hell of a salesman.
Oh yeah, what's the I'm so handsome it sells itself. It's a curse. It's a curse.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I told you, but the night that he reached out to me, next thing you know, he sends me I reached out to him and then he gave me a message back and he sends me a picture of Chris and his wife.
Yeah.
And I'm like, holy shit, what a small world. And he's like, so Chris walked up to him afterwards and said, hey, my buddy's got a podcast. You should be on it. And Chris, Chris is out there grinding for me. And he goes, I'm already on that. I'm already going on it. And Chris is like, get the fuck out of here.
He didn't believe me. I had to open my phone and show him.
Yeah.
And he's like, let's take a picture and send it. I was like, all right, I'll take a picture. He's a good dude, man. I talked to him and his wife for probably like 2 hours after that show. We were just,
He's a guy that always goes in I wish I went out and see, my wife had a stroke or a subarachnoid hemorrhage. And so going out to those places, I can't do that with her anymore.
Yeah.
The noise, all that kind of stuff. And we have been a few places, but then it wipes her out for a few days.
Yeah, it's not worth it.
But that's one of my goals this year for 2021 is to see more comedy shows. I mean, that's my thing. And anybody knows me knows, ever since I was a kid, comedy's been my thing.
Sure.
I love seeing people laugh. And I'll tell you what, comedy
we should get you on stage and let you try it.
I don't know, man. I don't know. Comedy has definitely helped me through some really dark times. And, one of the things I can remember, so my family, my uncles and stuff are hilarious. Like you get these guys together and it's an absolute shit show.
Yeah.
So my grandmother's dying. There's all of us in the room, my cousins, my aunts and everything. And me and my uncles are going at it with jokes. And so the doctor comes in and, he says to my mom, I think it was my mom, he goes, I wish this was, everybody did this. He goes, I walked in here. These guys are laughing their ass off. It was such a sight to see, and I lost my dad a couple of years ago. So humor, we had some funny laughs, and it was funny. And we talk about him a lot on here because he was the one that really kind of sparked my.
When did you lose him? What year?
2 years ago.
18?
In April 2019.
Oh yeah, sorry. Yep. I lost my mom in November of 2018, and it was fun. My parents obviously struggled with the fact that I was throwing away a pretty promising business career to talk about my wiener for money around the greater 48 or whatever.
I just do this shit for free,
But like when she got sick, I would be in the hospital with her every day, except for the weekend. My brother would, he works during the week. He would come in on the weekend if I had shows,
Sure.
My mom would say, just go do your shows. I had like shows in DC. I remember one time I was going to stay, and she was yelling at me. She's like, just go do I just don't want you to drive. Because it's like, it's like a 7-8 hour drive to DC or whatever. She said, I don't want, just fly. So I was like, that's the one thing about living where we live, It's like, she said that to me, and I got in my car, and I was in my hotel in DC 2 hours later, like sitting in my little hotel suite, being like, oh, this was good. This was a good decision,
Yeah.
So, but those weekdays were 7 in the morning till 7 or 8 at night every single day. It's like Groundhog Day over and over and over, and it would just be me and her. And she was like, I'm so thankful that you became a comedian because you have the flexible schedule to be here.
Sure.
And we would sit in there and just laugh for hours. She'd get tired after a while, but we would laugh for hours. And like, you can't.
It is the best medicine, man. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, chemo's a really good medicine too. Probably if she could have got that, she might still be alive.
Not nearly as funny.
Yeah. I brought her for her first treatment. That's when it all crashed.
Oh, did it really?
Yeah, like at the orientation for it, which really sucked, So that's why laughter, good medicine. The best, I don't know, maybe some good chemo or immunotherapy or a nice vaccine.
Yeah, and we talked. I think when Tony was on here, we talked. I lost my mom last year.
Yeah, look at us cheering everybody up at home.
Yeah,
we're gonna play Sarah McLachlan in the background.
Go ahead, bro.
We almost got Tina to cry. This guy right here.
Yeah. Well, that's not hard. I can make Tina cry. Jeez,
she's getting all upset. I'm like, we're gonna make you cry.
Do I want to try this wine again, or just I'm gonna give it just so you guys know at home. He bought this wine. He said it was a week old, but I'm feeling like it's way more than a week old. And
it's 8. Don't forget, it sat in whiskey barrels for
60 days.
For 60 days. So
can't forget about those. 60
it might have been
days.
shitty.
Is that
whiskey.
wine better?
Well,
is there another wine glass?
That's subjective.
Because I really want to drink the rest of this, but I don't want to have to edit it again to stop, so I have to run to your toilet.
So
I'm ruining the
over
Hollywood
there, you can grab one of the glasses on the top over there.
All right, I guess this is a very professional.
We're not editing this out. This is way too much work for me already. So
this part's fun. Yeah. Sorry. Hang on. Yeah. I want to try
right under the Joker appropriately.
There we go. Perfect.
That glass I think is dirty. That's got some schmeg on there. Yeah, you can just go old school right there.
Box glass.
Yep. There you go.
When you next time you're on, we'll have the server, bring some wine out too.
Yeah. Well, listen, by then you guys are gonna be the biggest podcast in the world with a giant name like mine on here.
Try to pull up just a little bit more. You're almost out of view there.
Oh, okay. Well, it's probably better for the people
There
at
you
home. All right. So, what was I saying? Take that garbage pail away.
Yeah, we were.
Jeez.
Yeah, we were bringing the audience way down, so we'll bring it back up.
Yeah.
So if you had to stop tomorrow, and so obviously, with the onset of like COVID, obviously you might have had to revisit some kind of backup plans, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
Get back into modeling.
Yeah. Where do you think you'd go?
Check out my OnlyFans. It was tough, man. When COVID hit, it was real tough. But I've been very fortunate that throughout my time in the business, I've made a lot of contacts, a lot of connections. So there were people that could throw me shows here and there. There wasn't really a lot of money to it or whatever. I had some money saved. I got a little bit of money. You made it. You can make it work and limp through it. But now we're getting to a point where it's like, geez, come on. So I was telling you guys this often, but we're launching a podcast on March 15th. So hopefully that'll become a source of revenue.
So let them know what that's all about.
Yeah, my buddy Joe Garrix, who is a very funny comedian, performs in New York City all the time, lives right outside the city. He and I have a podcast called Good Advice for Bad Ideas. So basically it's like anyone who's done some bad ideas in their life but has some good advice for if you are going to do that. If you're going to be crazy enough to do it, here's the advice. So like we had on a friend of mine who was a bank robber and he grew up on the Winter Hill, part of Somerville, Whitey Bulger's people and all that. Had him on, talking about that. We had a girl on who's, I guess we classify her as a sex worker. She's like a sugar baby or whatever you call it. We had on a guy who's a burglar. He was a Spider-Man burglar in San Francisco. He did like 70 burglaries, like blowing himself in through skylights with ropes and stuff like Mission
Crazy.
Impossible. a friend of mine who climbed Mount Everest on a whim.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, and almost died. Criminal defense attorney to kind of tell these people some advice. A kid who opened a comedy club in Shanghai, China. So I don't know if you know, but the Chinese government's not a big fan of stand-up comedy.
No.
Anything funny?
Yeah.
No, yeah. They do like karaoke though.
My buddy Mike Hanley that I was telling you about, he's on. He's got a natural talent for scamming his way into sporting events and stuff. He scammed his way onto a movie set.
It's awesome.
And then scammed himself into the movie. So he's on. And they're giving like good advice, but then also like telling you like, here's what you learned from what you did. So we have that launching. So the Good Advice for Bad Ideas podcast. That's the handle for it on Instagram and everything. But I'm also, haven't really announced it publicly, but I might as well. I'll just for a few people here.
Let's go.
My old business back when I was transitioning to comedy full time. I was a digital marketing expert for businesses. So SEM and SEO, if you know what those are, for websites to make them pop up number one on Google, and app development and website development. You know, if a business needs an app for their business or they need a new website or whatever. I had done that for big companies for years and years and years. And then I went into consulting for that. As comedy started picking up, I was like doing consulting, so I didn't have a stringent schedule. Like I had to be somewhere 9 to 5 or whatever. I could kind of just manage my time. And then just was full-time comedy. But then COVID hit. I had helped one of my friends with his company. In fact, if you remember the Hippodrome in Springfield, which is the biggest nightclub, he was one of the owners of the Hippodrome. Yep. So I had helped him with his new business's website.
Was that
He's like, let me...
Mike Brasso?
Yes, Mike. So we're partners. So basically, it was really funny. Like he had this new business, and he was like, hey, can you... So I was like helping him. And he was just like, I'll pay you money if you... And I was like, no, I don't want any money, man. I was like, he's always good to me. He's a great guy. And I was like, and I don't want to feel like I'm owing you like something, you know, because I'm going to be on the road and whatever. He's like, you ever think about making this a business? I said, yeah. I mean, I was like this close to doing it, but I never did it. And then COVID hit or whatever. And we ended up networking with this guy from Pakistan who is not just a programmer, but has a company of programmers that work for him. We have customer service out of the UK, so we're launching a company doing that for businesses.
Oh wow!
So which works for me because it's gonna take a good year for comedy to get back to where it was.
Sure.
And even when I was full time booming in comedy, I could manage a lot in the morning. I get up early. I don't need to sleep much, you know. So I get up early in the morning. I could do my consulting work or whatever hotel room I was in or whatever plane I was on. So so we're launching a business within the next 2 weeks. It's the first place I've talked
that's
about
awesome.
publicly.
I love it.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, you guys got an exclusive scoop. I hope Mike doesn't get mad at me. Sorry, Mike.
You heard it here first.
Yeah.
That's my first big scoop.
I did something for Mike. I forget. I think we printed like banners for him or something for our business. You know,
he's a great guy, man.
And then I think was he involved in...
Where do you work? What
one of the things I do is I run IQ Inc., which is a screen print embroidery business, and I think we did banners for Mike, and then I think he was involved in Bar FX out in Worcester.
Yeah, I think for a little while there. He was also the Palladium he had in Worcester. He had the Roxy in Boston. He's probably the most successful nightclub promoter like in New England.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
the Hippodrome was the biggest nightclub in like the Northeast for a while.
It was huge.
It was huge, and then Bar FX was the biggest one in Worcester.
Worcester, yeah.
That was
in fact, Bar FX, my buddy Dickie, if you know
Hutchinson.
Dickie was part of that too, and that bar that was there was the first comedy club I worked in. Was on the first floor of that bar. It was called Frank's Comedy Safari. It wasn't then. It was called the Fifth Amendment back then. It was like 4 nightclubs in one, and right when you walked in the door on the left-hand side, it was the same dimensions as a legendary Comedy Cellar in New York City. Brick wall behind you and everything, so it had that feel.
Was it really? Yeah.
Well, not that comedy club, but the building as a whole was.
But that's where I cut my teeth in comedy. That was the first club gig. It was a Thursday night gig. I still remember, and my buddy Orlando, was my mentor, made me close the gig, and since then, I think 3 of those guys that were on that show with me have gone on to Comedy Central specials and successful stuff. Yeah. Yep. And he made me close, and of course, you know, my career's still in the tank, so I blame him for that. But that's where I started. Yeah, that's where I cut my teeth in that room, and the Comedy Connection in Rhode Island, and Yeah, I started at 3Gs in Worcester, which is Kelly Square. Like that, these people used to get stabbed while I was on stage. People would overdose in the bathroom. You'd be like, so anyways, I had a crazy day the other day. I was at the park, and they're like, Claire, and you're just like, just ignore that. All right, you know. I had a guy one time. He pulled a knife out, like a big. He's like, say one more thing, man. I'm gonna cut you from ear to ear. And I'm normally like you can't scare me. But the way he said it, I knew.
Yeah, he meant business.
He meant it.
Yeah, yeah. You're like,
and then this is how much like I love comedy. I was like, I didn't care about my life. I was like, I'm having a pretty good set, man. I think if I just leave this alone, so I just like looked at the wall.
Just give me
basically.
15 minutes.
yeah.
Did the rest of my set. Then he tried to jump on stage. My buddy's like, no, you can't kill him. You can't kill him. So yeah, I a lot of those things, you know, experience. It's funny. And then like, you know, one of the people who are at Mohegan Sun now, comics, they used to be at Foxwoods, but they're at Mohegan Sun now. They treat me like family. They're them and the Comedy Connection were like my home clubs. The Comedy Connection Rhode Island. They so funny. I was on stage when it was like my first time headline. It was like a Friday night late show. They let me headline it at Foxwoods, and I'm on stage and some guy walking through the door was like laughing or whatever. And he went to walk out in like the lobby area, which you can see from the stage because it's open to the showroom. And he had a heart attack.
oh wow.
He just went down. And the audience, it's like packed, and the audience doesn't know what's going on behind him, but you could see it.
Oh.
So you got to be like, that's a crazy thing. Yeah, cops are like, they're just literally like, they're just like, doing chest compressions on the guy and everything. You're like, you feel like a sociopath in that moment. You're like, what am I doing? Like, just like, but you also realize like if you stop, everyone's going to turn around and all hell's going to break loose.
Show's got to go on.
You know, next thing you know, people are going to be around him. So you just have to keep fucking plugging through.
That's crazy.
Yeah, my buddy's like, where'd you learn how to do that? I was like, I started in Worcester at 3Gs where people used to have heroin overdoses in the bathroom. So
Because that was just another day.
Yeah, as soon as you get a knife pulled on you a couple times.
Yeah.
yeah, no.
Do you find it hard? You know, like you're the funny guy. So like when you get a group of people that know you, do you feel like you have to
not
always?
Least.
No.
You do that shit when you're like newer. You're like do that shit. A lot of times when I go out now, I'm the boring quiet guy at the end of it. Someone will be like, that guy's a comedian. They're like, this fucking asshole again. And you're just like, yeah.
He hasn't said anything, and what he said wasn't funny at all.
Yeah. I mean, you talk. You know, last night I had to talk for an hour straight on stage. You know, it's like that. You get done. You're like, I'm driving home with my buddy who's also a comedian. And we're like, yeah, we'll stop and get a drink. And we stopped and get a drink. And we sat there. We just sat there like we were two lovers on a date who were just starstruck. Just staring at each other like, yeah, it's a good show. Yeah, it's like, what are you gonna do? Like you talk so much, you know. I like to talk. If I'm in the right mood, you know. When Tina, that's how I met her. You know, she was running Tommy's place, and Tommy.
By the way, before I forget, I mean to cut you off, but we told Tina we give her a shout out today.
Yeah, hey Tina, I hope you feel better.
She couldn't be here.
She was gonna come.
Yeah, she was gonna come today, but she has something going on, so we told her we give her a shout out tonight.
Yep.
And no, she's just a sweetheart.
Yep.
She is.
And I hope that her rescue takes off. And she actually has done work with my rescue.
Oh, cool.
That I do. So it's a great partnership, and she just comes from a place of pure.
She's a great person.
Yeah.
I like Tina a lot, and we befriended each other immediately when we met. And
she doesn't age.
No, she's a good looking chick. Yeah, she's a good looking girl.
She looks exactly like she did in school.
Yeah,
I said on my last podcast, I look like my face has been wind by the sands of Egypt, like the Sphinx. You know, and
you know, it's like
there's not even a comparison to what I look like now.
Yeah, you don't look the same as
you
you
look
did.
young though. Like, how old are you?
46 this year.
Are you really?
Yeah.
Fuck you, dude. Look at that.
Well,
He's like a young Ted Bundy with the beard.
Yeah.
Well, so I lost. Well, right now it's about 105 pounds in the last year.
Yeah, I would.
Yeah,
So,
that's amazing, by the way.
Yeah, dude. Congratulations.
Thank you. And I did not look.
How'd you do? I just full disclosure.
Yeah.
I probably lost I probably by the middle of quarantine I was down probably 100 from my heaviest ever.
Yeah. Oh,
I was
wow.
down like 87 from the year before. Now I put back on like 15, maybe 15, 18, something like that. I haven't weighed, but that's why March 1st I was like, well, I'm back on the diet and everything.
Yeah.
I got to strict it up for summer and everything. But how did you do yours? What did you do?
I had weight loss surgery.
You son of a bitch! You went the easy route.
That was
Well,
that
and,
and cocaine, and then
that and cocaine.
Cocaine. That's a great weight loss.
So it's funny. So I always viewed weight loss surgery as like the easy way out. I've there's
It's not. It sucks because you can only eat like 3 crackers. You can't have a big ass meal and be like.
Very few times in my life where I was like kind of even close to like where I should be in weight. So, I always thought like weight loss surgery is the easy way out. I can do it myself. And, finally I got tired of just, one of the biggest things is I've always said is there's no old fat people, or very few.
Yeah, that's the same thing.
And I want to be old. I have 3 kids, so I kind of mulled around with it. Some good friends of mine had it done, and I went to them.
Did they put the band in there, or they just stapled in the kangaroo pouch?
I had a gastric sleeve, so essentially they kind of cut the bottom half of my stomach off.
So that's not reversible, then. That shit's fucking done.
Not reversible. It has the one of the quickest recovery times, lowest scarring, lowest repeat issues. So even though it kind of sounds really bad, compared to like gastric bypass,
sure.
And, aside from in lap bands, sometimes can't be reversible, and they have like the little bubbles they put down in your stomach to fill all that shit. So I did a lot of research, and in addition to some like firsthand, I wouldn't say reviews, but firsthand knowledge, from some people that I know. I went and did it, and
good for you.
You have to lose 10% of your body weight before you can even go under the knife anyway. So I went through the non-surgical, lose weight, here's a diet program, and it's not the easy way. It wasn't.
I know.
It wasn't horrible.
Make me feel guilty.
Yeah. See, I would have went the old-fashioned route. I mean, I would have went bulimic.
Yeah. I mean, there's always that.
I would look. Here's what I did. I just stopped. I stopped being a fat fuck. I mean, there was the only thing the only thing. Certain people have metabolism issues. You have my thing was I was sad eating. I was depressed.
That's how I am. I get pissed, and the next thing I'm in the cupboard. I just love fucking food.
I would sad eat. Like when my mom was in the hospital, that's when it got real bad because I wouldn't eat all day because I'd be in there all day just making sure she ate and talking to her doctors and doing everything. Yeah. And then it'd be the end of the day, and I'd be like, "What am I gonna do on my way home?" I just stop at Milano's, who gives you a portion for a whole family when you order like a spaghetti dinner. And I'd come home and eat the whole goddamn thing, and then I would just crawl into bed as that glycemic just spiked, and I would and I just fall right asleep, right?
Yeah, you wake up in the morning like you've been drinking all night.
It's like, God, it's a calzone hangover, But that's what I did, man, and I mean, dude, it got dark, man. I lost my will to live at a lot of points, just like this is, people always make the joke like, oh, you can't see your own penis, but it's like, I can't see my feet, bro. Yeah, like it was, fat, like real fucking fat.
Yep.
And you'd see people who knew you and they'd be like, how are you? Like, how are you doing? And you'd be like, what are you filling up on me?
Up and down.
Yeah. And you're like, oh, I get it. Okay. You just know, what's going on. We both know what's going on. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was just like, dude, I can't be sad forever. I'm going to die. Like I still, like, even the pandemic, you get those bouts of sadness, I'm trying to tell everyone that too. It's a good message for people at home. Right now is the worst time of this pandemic, man. I've been saying it for like 6 months. Like, I'm dreading January, February, March, when the weather's still cold and people can't get out. That's when it's all going to hit because we've already been in it for a year.
Summer, guys, wasn't that bad.
Summer was great.
You could at least go outside.
You could see your friends at a bar outside on a patio and not have to worry about shit. Now they're like, the African strain is fucking one fucking molecule will fucking kill your whole family. So, but yeah, it's like, So I just was like, I just had enough. I was like, fuck it. So I just literally went and joined the gym. And I started, I walked in and the lady was like, so what are you going to do? I was like, can I talk to the trainer? It was like Planet Fitness. They're like, do you really care about the trainer? Like, do you really? No one ever asked for the fucking trainer, And then the trainer's like half-assed it. They're like, so do you have a plan? And I was like, yeah, bitch, I have a plan. Here's my plan. I'm going to do the elliptical until I'm not so fat that I can do
it's a stepping stone to the next machine.
The other machine. Then I'm going to do the circuit training. When I'm once I get that down, I'm going to go to the cables. And then once I get that down, I'm going to go to the free weights. I got a diet in between. It's going to take me 20 pounds here, 20 pounds there. And she was like, that's great. Yeah, go get it. But in her head, she was like, whatever, fat guy, I'll see you. It's the last time I'm going to see your ass,
Yeah.
And it pissed me off, and I'm motivated by spite. And she just see me like day after day, and then she went away for like 2 months or something. And one day I walked in.
Did she go to jail or something?
Nah,
She went away.
but one day I walked in and she was like, "Oh, so you're new here? Can I help you with that?" I'm like, "I'm the guy because I had shaved my beard. I did I had the beard. I just shaved my beard and shit." And I was like, I can see my face and everything, And then I just kept dropping. And then even in pandemic, I was like, well, I can't go to the gym anymore, which sucks. But I'll hike. So I hiked like 6 to 8 miles a day. That's what I did.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but now that's why I've gained back some weight, because I knew, when Thanksgiving's going to hit. Like, what kind of sociopath's not going to eat?
You got
like
Christmas, and you got
Thanksgiving, Christmas, and
Christmas
New
and New Year's. Yeah, it's like a chain of.
And then you're done them, and you're like, yeah, you know what? We Super Bowl's right around the corner. We'll fucking do Super Bowl.
Just hold off till then.
Yeah, and you could keep doing that all year. The way it works, Valentine's, you gotta go get a nice meal, and then you're like, St. Patrick's Day, corned beef. What are you gonna have? Corned beef and cabbage and Guinness. So you start making like these things, like I'll get to it next time. I'll get to it next.
And the next thing you know, you're on your 600-pound life.
Right. Right. So I was just like, I was talking to my friend like today, and I was just like, all right, this is done. Like we're done. We're gonna eat healthy, and that's what it's gonna be. And you just get back on board. So now, I got 90 days. So I figure if I could drop 20 pounds in 40 days, I'll be on course. For summer.
What's when's your next gig coming up?
Oh, that's a great question. That's a really good question.
We got to give some support.
Yeah. When and where?
Yeah. Oh, I wish I had a lot.
We'll get a crew out there.
Well, around here.
I'll drive.
Around here. Well, I do have a
drive all day long. I'll drive out to support you.
I got the end of the month. I'm doing comics. I'm headlining Comics and Weekend Sun. That's the 28th of March. But I will tell you this much.
That's a Sunday. Sunday.
I am going to. Yeah, it's a Sunday. I'm going to try in the next 3 weeks, because Massachusetts just released the requirements for live entertainment.
Yeah, I think like next week things are opening.
Yeah, so I'm going to try to book a couple of gigs. So if you just follow my Facebook and Instagram, I'm going to try to book a couple of gigs in those next couple of weeks, just to dust the rust off and give people a chance to come out and see me and stuff. So if you're on my Facebook, I'll be posting stuff on there when I do land some of those.
Yeah, I'm excited to see you. I just love comedy, and like I said,
who's your favorite comic?
Oh my God, Jesus!
I'm gonna judge you.
I'm in there with Stephen Wright and Mitch Hedberg just because I love
Mitch Hedberg was a whole different guy, man. He
I was fortunate enough to see him one time, and it's probably one of the best comedy shows I've ever seen.
He's a brilliant guy.
Down in Connecticut, like the Bushnell, I think.
Yeah.
He's a brilliant guy. Stephen Wright is too. I mean, Stephen Wright.
Yeah.
I was starstruck when I met him. Like, I genuinely met him, and like, I was like, "Holy shit, you're Stephen Wright." He's like, "Holy shit, I am Stephen Wright." And I was like, I had bumped into him, and I was like, I kind of spent. I was like, "Can I buy you a beer?" And he goes, "I don't know, can you?" Like, "Are we gonna do this all night?" Or
that's his gig, man. He's in it all day. So I don't know if I do it by like how old school, you know what I mean? Like, I know some people categorize things, but Dave Chappelle is one of my favorite comedians.
He's one of the greatest guys alive right now.
When he went away for a little while, that sucked. And
Dave Attell, Chappelle, Bill Burr.
Dave Attell, man.
Norm Macdonald's another one.
There's so many geniuses out there.
Yeah, there is.
Doug Stanhope. A lot of people don't. More people should know Doug than do, but Doug Stanhope to me is one of the most brilliant minds in comedy, dude. That guy.
Do they still do Last Comic Standing?
They were doing it up until pretty recently. They had a few scandals and stuff when they were doing it too.
I got to really enjoy Todd Glass.
Yeah, Todd's another very super funny dude. A lot of those guys. The guy Jimmy Schubert that I was telling you about, Jimmy was on I think the first or second season. He was the runner-up or something.
Yeah.
That's a great. It's a great platform for stand-up because it introduces people to stand-up comedy, but it was always kind of run a little bit hokey. They would make it seem like you could just wait in line outside the thing, but it's not American Idol. Like, no one walks around their house or they go to the bar for karaoke and they're like, my dick. You're like, no one practices jokes that way, you know?
Right,
what they used to do is they would railroad people who had agents and stuff. They would obviously railroad those people, and one of the producers, a guy who, he's a legendary guy in comedy in New England, Barry Katz. I think he was one of the producers. So there's some sort of controversy too because they thought he could get his people in. I don't know if that's true or not, but basically what was happening was, there'd be a bunch of delusional new kids. Like I was like 2 years in, my friends were like, do you want to go do Last Guy Really Good? And I was like, nah, I ain't doing that. They're like, why? Because I fucking suck. Like I was smart enough to know I suck, but they were all like, we're going to do it. We're going to do it. And they wait out line in like 2 days in New York City on the cold pavement. And they get there and they're like, yeah, sorry, we can't do it. Or like one got in and got like a 1 minute audition with a producer who was like, yeah, thanks for coming out. Appreciate it. And sent you on your way,
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a good part. Netflix has been good for stand-up comedy. The pandemic's been good for that. As far as Netflix and YouTube and all that stuff, it's been pretty cool. And nowadays it's crazy. I mean, I have friends that are producing specials that are crushing it. Crushing it.
Yeah.
Well, from a streaming perspective, I think Netflix is killing it. Like they've been pushing comedy.
But you don't even need. That's the crazy part. You don't even need. I mean, obviously Netflix is great because it gives you a global platform. You can tour around the world after, depending if they put you everywhere. But like Joe List, who Joe's a guy. Like I mean, I've known Joe for probably 10 years, better part of 10 years. He's fantastically funny and everything. He put his specials last night. He just put it on YouTube.
Yeah.
And I think he had over 1 million views already, like from that.
Wow.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. Like YouTube, I mean, look at Justin Bieber. He came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
I think YouTube can really, that's my hope anyways with this. And who knows, the next step is to get a studio, do something a little bit bigger and keep working it,
Just better wine. It's better wine. Now,
is that one better?
Yeah,
is that shitty?
This is Mark. No, that one was shitty, quite literally. But this one is much better.
This is for the whiskey barrel aged ones. This is usually the bottom. This is where I started, was with the Baltic Inferno. That's where I discovered the whiskey barrel aged ones.
Yeah.
That's when I moved on to Cooper and Thief.
Can I give a reverse plug to that company?
Sure.
Yeah, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, go for it.
Listen,
it's not going to offend me.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
Yeah.
My insides almost fell out.
But I'm telling you, you got to go see that guy Luke down at the center of town.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to get him on the podcast. You're talking about somebody who knows beer and wine.
That's where you got that.
Yeah. And he is, I'm telling you, this guy's like a vault of knowledge.
Yeah.
One of the
if you
nicest
like beer
guys.
that much and you like comedy and you want to come see me, what you should do is my buddy, the same people own comics at Mohegan Sun, their son, he has his own offshoot business called the Comedy Craft Beer Tour.
Oh, wow.
So it's comedycraftbeer.com. And I do these shows for them, and they're all in breweries.
Oh, no kidding.
So, like, they're all in microbreweries around here.
Oh,
yeah,
shit.
yeah. What's that called again?
Comedycraftbeer.com. It's the Comedy Craft Beer Tour. So you do, like, last week I was in, was it last week? Last night I was in Labyrinth Brewing in Manchester, Connecticut. It was a really awesome brewery.
Yeah.
So that's a real big one, right? With the I'm gonna do a horrible job explaining.
You think a treehouse?
Giant fucking building though, right? And they have like an upstairs lounge.
Nope, that's Illicit Brewing. That's a different one. Yeah, right. Illicit's great. I've done shows for them too.
Now, do you put this all on your social media so people can see where you're gonna be?
I throw it. I should be better about it. I really should. But I'm kind of a half-ass fucking guy. They put it out. I throw it up when I can. Not everyone sees it. Everyone bitches every time. They're good, because COVID, everything sells out now too, which makes it makes you delusionally. If you let it get a hold of you, it can make you think your career is better than it was, because you'd be like, bro, I sold out like fucking 4 shows.
People are just dying to get the fuck out of the house.
You sold out 4 shows with an attendance of 30%, dummy. It's like,
oh yeah, that too.
Yeah, that's
well,
what I'm
you
saying.
never know. I mean, when they start opening up, I think people really, they found
the crowds that have been coming out since the pandemic started. And I was back on stage by like maybe April, May, The problem was there's no money in it. So you like, if you do a stage time, it's like to get a rep, know? But my first show back was whatever, I don't know, April, May, something like that. And the crowds are a lot better than they were before the pandemic.
Right.
Because everyone needs to laugh now.
Yeah.
They want to they're stuck at home. Like I always said, you're stuck at home with your stupid spouse and you're just like, God, can we go listen to someone else talk for a fucking hour? Like, I don't want to hear your voice. So
not
like,
my wife. I don't know what you're talking about.
I tell them that. I don't even have pressure to be funny right now. You're just happy it's not her or him talking. Like,
Jeff pries me out of here on Mondays. Or pries me out of my house on Mondays because I don't want to leave that.
Yeah. Isn't that great? Yeah.
No, but we talked about hecklers last time.
Yeah.
When we first met. Yeah. So talk to us about hecklers, because like I said, I love that interaction. I'm with the guy
those are my
who
favorite parts of
puts
shows.
tucks
Favorite
the
parts.
napkin in.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
let's go.
Yeah.
You know, because like I said, there's certain things you shouldn't do as a person. You shouldn't fuck with an MMA guy if you don't know how to fight. You know, you
Yeah,
shouldn't
it's
mess
good
with a
advice. I
comedian.
always tell people now, and I did like karate and martial arts and competed and stuff when I was in my younger years and my early 20s and stuff. But if you're gonna mouth off to somebody, you see they have cauliflower ear.
That's a good sign to walk away.
It's just bro, let the ego go, man.
I had a MMA guy in here a couple weeks ago, and he just put out a video the other day, and I was watching.
Who was
his
it?
Video.
Nate
Diaz? No, not Nate
No,
Diaz.
it definitely wasn't Nate Diaz.
God,
You would
I
know
can't believe
that.
I just said that.
You would probably know if it was Nate Diaz.
I'm not gonna remember it, but yeah.
I can't believe I just said
That's
that.
really
Here,
funny.
He
I'll
trains
look him
in
up here.
He's like, I don't know this guy, Conor McGregor or
Yeah.
something like that. I
Yeah.
don't know. I've
No one's
never-
probably ever heard of him.
Yeah.
Go ahead and take over.
The
for a
reason
second,
I asked,
yeah.
the reason I asked is because I ring announced for like 8 or 9 years for one of the feeder leagues for the UFC.
So he just
you know.
recently,
Oh, Nate Garib.
Grieve. So
Okay.
he just recently went like pro,
Yeah.
you know, and got into UFC just a few months, I think, before he
Sure.
was on here, you know, or within the last year.
I have some really good friends that are great MMA fighters that have
Yeah.
done UFC or in Bellator and stuff like that.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah, they're fantastic guys.
And they're like really most. I mean, Nate was the most down to earth. You know,
course.
they have this aura around them because they don't have to like.
You don't
be
have to
tough
have
guy,
a
you
male
know?
ego
Yeah.
or anything else about it because you
You're already fucking
know
shit
you
up.
can kill
Yeah.
most people with your bare hands.
I was gonna mess with him too. I was gonna be like, you know, Nate, after looking at all your stats here, I still think I can take you. I was actually gonna have him try to choke me
Yeah,
out.
don't
on
do
the
that.
thing, yeah.
Don't do that. I had joking around one time in the after party for PFC where it's like maximum capacity or something like that. And Ricardo Funch was there, who was in the UFC at the time, who was a fantastic fighter based out of Lincoln, Ludlow. And yeah, I was joking around. I go, yeah, choke me out. There's a picture of me on my Facebook. And I literally was, all I could remember doing was trying to hold my drink as everything was going black.
Oh,
And he did it. I mean, even I think he surprised himself. Like, wow, this guy's such a pansy. Like, I think he did it in like under a half a second.
oh wow.
But as soon as that,
Well, once they shut the
as soon as
carotid artery
they
off,
shut
you're
him down,
you're
it's just like
toast,
you
yeah.
feel, yeah, you
He's
feel
going
it.
down.
Yep. But yeah, you know, it's like one of those things where you know, MMA fighters have that kind of quiet confidence with them or whatever. If you've been doing comedy a long time, a lot of times with a heckler, you know.
Now, do you look forward to one of them, or is it like do you
I
prepare
used
yourself
to.
for them?
In the old days, I did because it was like, you know, you're a young cat full of piss and vigor. I'm going to show how smart I am. I'm going to fucking tear this person. Yeah, as you get older, you're just like, man, can I just do this set that I'm working on, bro, without you like ruin it? And if you're going to ruin it, like, you know, it's not going to work for you. I know I'm going to, you know, I had it happen. They were talking about another podcast, the Irish Goodbye podcast. My buddy Mike Cannon and Mike Feeney, they have a good podcast. And they were talking about the weekend. I had this heckler lady in the last show. I come out, it's like 3 girls on a girls' night out.
Oh, those are
And
the
I'm
worst.
wearing a gray hoodie. I'm wearing like dark jeans, and I'm wearing brown shoes, like dress shoes. And I walk out, and she goes, "Nice outfit." And I don't know if she means it nicely or if she means it shitty. I go, "Yeah, thanks, sweetie." You know, like I just like, "Thanks, sweetie,"
Yeah.
like whatever. And then she goes, "I have balls." And I'm like, "What?" She's like, "Balls." And I'm like, "I don't even know. Like, what? Does she have Tourette's? Like, what are we doing right here?" And her friend's like, "She's saying she can see your balls." And so I said something, you know, inappropriate or whatever. Like, "Yeah, keep it up. You know, you'll fucking see them right in your eyes," or whatever. You know, like some dumb stuff. Throw it. But she was like heckling, and it just got progressively dumber.
Yeah.
And then I was just like, "Dude, shut the fuck up. All right, everyone else paid for a ticket. Just shut up." And as when you're opening, you don't really want to be the person that tosses somebody out because it can make the crowd weird. You defer to the headliner usually for that.
Yeah.
And I did the right thing. I like lectured her. I was like, "Listen, when the headliner comes out, you can fuck with me, but when the headliner comes out, blah, blah." And Mike Cannon is a super funny guy. I mean, really funny comedian from New York. And much like me, just no patience at this point, you know.
This
And
comes out.
he just walks out, and she's like, "Bah, bah, bah." And he just goes, "Yeah, you know what? I was gonna do this whole thing." They're like, "Oh, you got to remove them. Just say you want to order him a soda." And they're, "Hey, just kick her the fuck out. Get her out." He had enough. He goes, "Get out." And they're like, "What do you mean?" He goes, You know, he goes, you just need so much attention. You're goddamn unshameable. Marty tried to shame you. You have no shame. He's like, just leave.
You just don't get it.
He goes, there's a whole casino out there for you three that you can walk around and be the center of attention. But right now, I'm the center of attention. And me and all these people have waited a long time to do this and paid good money. And we're not going to sit here with your bullshit. So get out.
Yeah.
And that was it. And
Really?
the bouncer came over and picked him up and dragged him up. And I was like, that's like beautiful when you see those moments. So yeah, when you've been doing it longer, a lot of times you don't. Sometimes you're like, okay, but most of the time when it happens, you're like, oh god, because it's happened a million. You know what I mean? People like them on YouTube. They love, they're like, oh my god, it's awesome.
There's like a threshold.
Yeah,
right? Like at what point is it disrupting what the audience is here for?
Yeah, and a lot of comics. I mean, they realized on YouTube people watched heckler videos. So like, if you've ever watched,
I'm
YouTube,
guilty of that.
Yeah, and if you ever watch YouTube, you'll see all these people put like, so-and-so destroys heckler. Yeah. And then you watch, it's like some kid who's been doing 2 years and like, hey, fucking whatever. And the kid's like, fuck your mom. And it's just like, the credits roll. You're like, what?
That's it?
You destroyed him? You destroyed him, really?
I saw Ralphie May, I think.
Ralphie
May at the Hugilo.
Shit,
R.I.P. Ralphie.
Yeah.
And there was right up front, and I was actually in the same table I was at in the Hugilo, and this, bunch of women, out for a girls' night, and one of them just wouldn't shut up, and he kept, he was brushing it off, kind of just.
You usually give him 3 strikes, and on the 4th strike.
And then he just started tearing into her. But what I appreciate, from Ralphie is that he gave like an extra 45 minutes at the end.
Oh, yeah.
After he booted out, he's like, listen, you guys all had to deal with that shit. He's like, it took me away from what I was trying to do. He's like, we're going to run it late. And, and we're just going to keep going.
Ralphie was probably on the late show. Ralphie, if it was on the other show, couldn't have done that really. But Ralphie was, I mean, I only met Ralphie a handful of times, maybe like 3 times. So, but one time he came in the green room. He was working the theater. We were in the club at Fox's. Just comes in like just comics hanging out in the green room. The green room was small. And he came walking in, and I was like, here, you can have my seat. He's like, what the fuck you say? I can have your seat. I was like, I'm just saying. He's like, you skinny motherfucker. He's fucking trying to call me fat. I was like, no, I'm not trying to call you anything. I'm just saying your feet look like they need a rest. And he started laughing. He's like, you fucky. He's like, dude, my feet are fucked up. And he started talking about his feet, how fucked up they were from how heavy he was and everything. He was a... he was a comic, man, just a good guy, and man, that's one of those guys that not being around, you're like shit. Him, Greg Giraldo, Patrice O'Neill, all those guys were. It's a different, and it's sad because every year that goes by, I just feel like we just keep adding more names to the list.
Yeah.
It's a weird thing, man. The way comics die, it's weird. I hope.
Well, it's that singers like Hendrix and Marilyn Monroe.
Sure.
It's you wonder if what they would become if drugs weren't. But then you also have to wonder, were they funny because of the drugs? You know what I mean? It's a catch-22.
Well, Ralphie really wasn't like a big drug guy. Ralphie was just, his drug was food. I think that's his big thing. And Patrice is a similar thing.
Patrice is a big guy. Yeah.
He was a big dude. Yep. His mom came out to one of my shows. I was doing with Big J, who's another. Big J used to be one of his openers, and she saw him on the poster. She's like, "Oh, I love Big J." So she came out to the show, and it was crazy meeting her because you're like, "Oh my god, you birthed like one of the greats." It's like a weird thing.
Yeah.
Can I just look in your vagina and just see if there's any funny lines he left in there on the way out? Like just amazing.
There's just some light that's
Yeah. I was a huge Greg Giraldo fan. I was a huge from the Tough Crowd days. I used to daydream about doing comedy. That's to answer your question. As an adult, I had a pretty shitty job. The shittiest job I think I ever had probably was working for Coca-Cola.
Oh.
And it was just me. It was.
I used to work for a beverage company for 13 years.
Yeah, it's brutal, right?
Yeah.
You're spinning
Coca-Cola
bottles.
Now. It's telling you now.
Well, I was a salesman.
Yep,
and
same.
I liked the company.
What was the company? Can you not say?
I don't want to
whisper it
say.
to me?
I'll tell you off the air, but it rhymes with Schmoller.
I was just about to guess. All right. So I was playing for the Yankees, and you were playing for fucking Kansas City Royals, baby. All right.
I love my boss. I love my guys I worked with, but my pay was getting
I'm gonna have a little more of that.
jingled with every now and then, so I had to make a decision, and I really missed that. The rest of the company, because the company as a whole treated me really good. It was just one guy that was, just grinding me all the time, and before I went to prison, I said I'll just leave.
Well, I thought you meant you really went to prison. Like,
No.
Let's talk about that. The whole Coca-Cola company that I worked for, there were some great people, but mostly they ended up going belly up. It was called Coca-Cola Enterprises, a bottling company. They ended up, I think, going out of business. Warren Buffett bought it and just ruined it. But yeah. My area was down like the Berlin Turnpike, so like Newington, Connecticut, and all that, all the way down to like North Haven, Connecticut, and all the way across almost to Waterbury to the line of Cheshire, Connecticut. And on Monday mornings, I remember my area was down in Newington. I would drive, and Howard Stern would start up, so I would get there early.
Yep.
Howard started 6. I would try to be to my first Cumberland Farms at like 5:40. I try to get in and do all the bottles and everything, get back to the car. And I would sit there, and I'd have my breakfast, which is usually like a pack of tiny donuts or whatever. And I would listen to Howard Stern come on, and I would always want to catch it before the break because they would get into it with Artie about how his weekend was.
Yeah. Oh, Artie
It would
Lang,
be like Artie and Florentine and Craig Gass and all these guys, and they would be talking about their weekend and the shows and the club and what they did. And I would sit there and daydream with my eyes closed. Like, this isn't my life. That's my life. That's what I should be doing for my life. I shouldn't be here on a Monday morning fucking dragging from a weekend of fun. I should be in Howard's friggin' room talking about my crazy weekend.
Yeah.
You know?
Artie's another guy you just rooted for all the time.
Yeah, good guy.
And then he'd have these setbacks, but you rooted for him again, and he had a setback. And,
he's still kicking. Artie's still, but
surprisingly so.
Yeah. I mean, and Artie's still. I have a short bucket list of people I haven't been able to work with that I want to work, but Artie's on my bucket list for that.
For sure.
But a lot of those guys, like I'm friendly with Bob Levy. I love Bob, and know Florentine pretty well, and Craig Gass, as I consider a friend, and it's pretty fun for me. I'll tell you a story. One day I'm doing shows with. I feel like I'm name dropping everything, but it's not a comedy podcast, so who gives a shit? Any of my comedian friends listen to this will be like, ooh, fucking name dropping.
There he goes again.
Because comics are stupid.
Yeah, take your own dick out of your mouth.
Comics are stupid. They don't understand. Like it's okay to be excited about what you do and to talk about stuff. Like people find it interesting, but you fucking name drop. You take all right. So I'm just supposed to pretend that the last 12 years of my fucking life didn't happen.
Right, right.
So what are the funny stories? Oh, well, I got to treat everyone like it's Skippy brand peanut butter, like it's generic peanut butter. So did you have peanut butter? What peanut butter was it? Store brand. It doesn't matter really. Honestly, it's Yeah. So
it's peanuts.
Yeah.
ShopRite. Yeah.
So I was doing a weekend. It was the weekend of the Boston Marathon bombings, coincidentally, and I was at Fox's, and I was with Nick DiPaolo, who was another guy who was always on Stern, and who I loved. I still love Nick. I find him very funny. He's unique as all day is like, but Nick has an edge to him. So I come in the first day, and they're like, "Hey, by the way, when you're in the green room, don't really talk to Nick, Marty. You're always like," I go, "Dude, I've been around like enough famous comedians, like no offense to Nick if you're listening, but I've been around people. It's fine, all right. You're not flying private, so I know how to conduct myself." So he's like, "All right." So I come in the green room. I'm sitting there. I'm just like watching my phone, just like fucking on my phone. Nick comes in. He introduces himself. "Hey, Nick, I am Marty. How are you?" Blah blah. I'm sitting there on my phone. I'm just typing away, but I'm smiling, and he just goes, "The fuck are you smiling at? The fuck are you smiling?" He just rubbed the. I go, what do you mean? He goes, "You're sitting here fucking smile. We're in a fucking casino doing a late show on a Thursday night in a shit casino where everyone's drunk and they're only here because they lost. What the fuck could you possibly be smiling about?" And I was like, "Well, Nick, seeing you asked, I used to work 65, 70 hours a week for a Coca-Cola company, wanting to kill myself every day at the end of the day. And the only saving grace I had was on Monday mornings I could listen to you and to Jim and to Bob and to Artie talk about your weekend in a comedy club. And I always wanted to be a part of that. And it was like my dream then. And now I'm just smiling because I'm in the green room sitting across from you, and even though you're a dick, I'm still happy about it."
Still
and
my dude.
He started laughing. He was like, "Ah," that was it. And then like the rest of the weekend, we had a blast. Yeah. Yeah.
So when was your first like holy shit moment, like where you were like in the green room or opening, for one of those people where like you kind of idolized them, or they kind of like catapulted you, or
I mean, I've had some surreal ones, man.
Yeah.
Like I mean, but it seems stupid to say. Like you have them, and then you like, but the reality is, when you tell these stories, people are like, that must have been so cool. But it's like, but if I told you all the other stories in totality, it was like, you're gonna have to live through all that to then do this. You'd be like, that's not so cool. Like you wouldn't want, you know what I mean? Like I did an arena show, and it was like whatever 6,000 people. I don't even know, like thousands of people. And you see yourself on soundcheck, like in the fucking jumbotron. You see your head, and you're just like, "Man, my head's huge. Like that's fucking weird." Yeah, that's one of those moments.
Yeah.
Probably one of the craziest oh shit moments. I've had a bunch. My buddy Yoshi was nice enough one time. He was opening for a hotel in Boston. He was staying with me out in Chicopee. I was like, "I'll give you a ride." I gave him a ride out, and I was like, do you think maybe you can get me a ticket so I don't have to buy? And he's like, "What are you talking about, Marty?" He's like, "You're with me." So he walked me in the back, and I had met Attell like, I don't know, 8 months before that at the Cellar. I was at the Cellar just watching a show, and then my friend was there, and they made me come over and sit at the table, which is like a sacred thing, and I didn't want to do it.
Was it really? Yeah.
Yeah, and I didn't want to do it, and then Dave was like, "Are you a comedian?" I was like, "No." And then my friend, who's like the promoter for comics, or the booker, he was like, "You better be a comedian. You just did blah, blah, blah." And he like rattled off my shit. And then Attell's like, "Oh, so you are a comedian?" I was like, "Nah, Dave, I'm really not. I'm not a comedian compared to you guys. Like, you sacrifice your whole fucking lives to be here in New York City doing this. Like, I'm a fucking nobody." And he something about that. He was like, "Hey, I'm opening," and he goes, "I'm in Rhode Island in 2 weeks. You want to open for me?" And I was contracted to do the ring announcing, and I couldn't get out of it. And so I had to turn it down.
Oh, wow.
Oh shit.
But he remembered me from that. And then, we're at the Wilbur, and I'm excited that I got to go backstage. And then Dave just goes like, they're like, "All right, call times," and they post your call times. It's like a poster they put on the backboard. And he's like, "Call times," and Dave goes, "Hey, so Marty, what do you think? What do you think about tonight? What do you think?" I'm like, "I'm just excited to see the show." And he's like, "Yeah, you think you may be more excited to do the show?" And I was like, "Yeah, I mean, obviously someday I'll be real excited." And he's like, "Well, how about tonight? How about you go out there and open up and host the show?"
Wow.
And I go, and I was immediately like, this is like
Panic-stricken,
1,500 people in this legendary room that, it's sold out. It's Dave Attell, arguably the funniest person on earth, and he goes, "You don't really have a choice." And as they're putting the call sheets, my name is on the top of the call sheet. I have the picture on my face. My name's there, and then it's Yoshi's, and it's him. And yeah, he couldn't have been more generous and kind to me. I opened for him a couple of times. I kind of fucked up at one point because somebody lied to me. They had done an interview with him. They're like, "Oh, Dave told me to bring me back." So I brought this girl and all her friends back to the green room because she said that Dave said it was okay. I could see it by his face as soon as they came in. This is when we did the big theater Foxes, that it wasn't okay. And I was like, well, there goes that fucking connection, forever. But he's fantastic. So that was a surreal one. I had a few. The Tracy Morgan thing was my mom. That was like her favorite comedian, even though she never watched a stand-up.
Yeah.
And my mom was always like, "I'll never accept that you're a comedian until someday you tell me you know Tracy Morgan." And then, it's like 4 a.m, and I've got Tracy trying to call her voicemail to leave her a voicemail, And I was like, I just took a picture with him, and I went over to my mom's house like the end of the weekend, and I was like, "Here you go," So.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, some of those are cool. I mean, comedically, there's some surreal ones, standing O's and stuff like that you don't get those often, but when you do, they stick with you. You're like, "Oh, that's cool,"
Do you do impressions at all?
Fuck no.
No.
Can I? I mean, arguably. There's a podcast out there with me and Craig Gass from Howard Stern. It's called Wicked Funny Podcast. It's based out of Rhode Island. It's a really funny podcast. My buddy Brian Bowden's podcast. And half the podcast was Craig Gass teaching us how to do Al Pacino.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I was like, "Oh, yeah." And he's like teaching, and then he's like, "Repeat after me. All right." And I'm like, "All right." And they're like, "Ooh, we're doing that." And by the end of it, I was like, I could do a halfway decent Pacino. Yeah. So can I do them? I'm sure, but would I ever do them on stage? No. It's like I can play guitar, but I won't bring my guitar and play on stage.
Yeah.
I just like pure stand up. Not that there's anything wrong with people who do impressions and do them well, but I just I like going
It's not
out.
your shtick, yeah. What do you do to prepare? Like when you're in the green room and all of a sudden it's your time to go on.
You don't care anymore at this point.
You just go.
Just drunk. No, you'll look at your notes sometimes on your phone or whatever. Sometimes, most of the time, I remember like coming up when you're like newer. I remember like I was doing Funny Bone with Florentine, and he's sitting there. He's like, go have a good set or whatever. And they put like a fucking steak down. He's like eating a steak. He's like, yeah, go get him. And I was like, you gotta go steak. You're eating a steak. You gotta go on stage in like 20 minutes. He's like, it's fine. You know. I was like, I can't. My stomach. Every time I would have the show, I would have to like take a shit. Like I couldn't eat. I'd be like, oh my god, what am I gonna do? I have to calm down. Now, dude, there's been times where I'm literally like wolfing down like a piece of pizza in the green room, taking a tequila shot, and running out on stage with like still choking on tequila. Like, all right, hey, what's up, everybody? How's it going?
Yeah.
Like you get. It's It's like you watch an airline pilot. You know, I'm sure the first time a pilot is taking off with everything, did you check? All right, is everything? You know, and then eventually you're just like hitting the switches with your elbows.
Right.
Or whatever. Yeah. But sometimes you get nervous depending on the thing or whatever. But no, you don't really prep. I mean, you look at your notes and stuff like that. You prep in your hotel room before, or at home, or on your ride or whatever. But not I don't. Good comics.
What about like new material? Like,
I was
like
just
open
say.
mics and stuff, testing grounds, or
Used to be,
family?
but then when you start doing more and more, you don't have the time to do open mics. You know, it's like if you went out and you did shows, paid shows, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, you're not exactly like, man, I gotta hit that mic. You're literally like,
you're toast. Yeah.
I'm toast. Like I just flew in at 10 o'clock on Sunday night. I'm not doing it. Maybe if you like the kid, it's a new kid, and someone's like, hey, do you want to go? You'll be like, all right, I'll go try 5 minutes or whatever. But otherwise, what you do as you get farther along is you start squishing it into your set. You take the idea and you put it in the middle of your set. So if you're doing 30 minutes, you put that, somewhere after like minute 5, minute 8.
Small little segments, testing.
Yeah, you put that bit in, and then you got a banger behind it that you can cover it up if you just fucking like a cat in a litter box. Man, I want stuck. And just cover it up and go on.
Yeah.
And a headline set, you can do that more than enough. Which is last night I did an hour on stage. So
is that a long? Typically, is that a long time?
Yeah, it's like a really long time.
Is it? Yeah. What's your typical time?
If I'm headlining, 45. If you're middling, 25, 30. Yeah, but if you're doing an hour, now you got time to talk out some of those jokes that you wanted to work on, that you wanted to talk about more, work in a new joke that you haven't done, or a new tag or a new punch. You just build out your set that way, and then you record, and then you hate it all. You listen to it, and you just edit it back down into.
Now, do you ever run these jokes by people to see what they think, or are you at that point now where you're like, what's a hit right off the bat?
No, you never can. I mean, I don't think I can ever. There's sometimes I'm like, this is going to be good, but very rarely. Usually you're just like, throw it up against the wall and see if it fucking sticks. And then it goes bad, and you're like, check. Not going to do that again for a while, It's, it's a weird thing. I mean, I feel like it's more interesting for like a comedian talking to another comedian, or like maybe a fan of comedy. I don't know anyone listening to this gives a shit about it, but the creative process can be anything. You can, a lot of times I used to write in the shower. I used to write on the way to the show sometimes.
Yeah.
I have a song. It's probably the lamest song. I won't tell it on air, but I'll tell you guys after. But I have a song that if I play this song, like one of my buddies will call me and be like, hey, I need a tag and a punch for this joke. And they'll tell me the joke, and I'll be like, all right, I'll call you back in 10 minutes. I get in the car, and I put on this song, and I drive, and whatever about this song puts the tag or the punch in my head automatically.
I love that. Wow, that's wild. I love it.
Yeah. And it's the song when I tell you, you're going to be like, what the fuck?
Is it a Journey song?
No, it's way more feminine.
Nice.
Way more feminine.
Nice.
Sarah McLachlan.
Yeah,
it might be.
Close.
It might be.
But yeah, the creative process can be anything. I like to write from stage a lot, but I also, as I've gotten older, I've kind of stepped back from that, and I take the ideas, I sketch out the ideas, and then I know the punch, I know the setup, and then I try to work out everything else in between, and then a tag to the punch, and sometimes the tag's better than the punch, and you're like, all right, on the next show I'm going to do this. It's trial and error business, kind of, in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Very, very rarely do you write a joke and you're just like, oh, this thing's a goddamn home run.
It's like done deal. Like,
Because when you
I
have
am the
that,
best.
yeah, because when you have that, this thing's a goddamn home run. Then you go out that night, you're like, all right, people, and you start telling it with all this confidence, and that's how the comedy gods work. And everyone's just like, yeah, haha, and you're like, oh god,
cue the hecklers.
yeah. I mean, you don't get. I mean, people think if you watch YouTube, you're thinking everyone's getting heckled every day. You don't get heckled.
No, I've been to
much
enough shows.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
It's not a common occurrence.
Right.
You know, it's usually just the people who've had too
Yeah,
much
I mean,
fucking alcohol.
You can fuck with people in the crowd sometimes, joke around with them, whatever. But like a true heckler, it's not fun. I mean, it's not fun usually. You know.
Yeah.
I mean, back in the day, they were fun. I mean, dude, I was doing a show. This is a fun one. I was doing a show in what the hell is the town? Past Blandford.
Lee.
Beckett.
Oh, Beckett.
Okay.
Oh,
yeah.
Jesus.
I was doing a
you're way
show.
out there.
That's out there.
I'm like
Yeah,
maybe
were you
a
at
year.
Jacob's
I'm
Ladder
like
doing ballet, or
it's close, dude. I'm like 2 years into comedy, if that maybe. And this is how bad it was, you know. And Steve Nagel from Rock 102,
Oh, yeah.
a good buddy of mine. He did a lot of comedy back in the day. Steve was like the comedy scene. It was like me, Steve. There's like three of us.
He's a
four of us.
stand-up guy.
Yeah, Steve's a good guy. He'd be a good guy to get in here, but he's got his kids, so it's hard. But Steve had this bar gig at a place called Uncle Larry's Roadhouse in way out in fucking Beckett, Massachusetts. So off to Uncle Larry's Roadhouse we went on a Friday night. Now, if you can imagine, Beckett, Massachusetts is population 800 or whatever. There ain't shit going
lucky.
on.
Seasonally.
So the Roadhouse is sold out. And in the front row is this big-ass dude wearing camouflage. Gotta be conservatively 6'6".
could barely see him.
385.
Yep. Oh, he's a
Jacked.
big boy.
Like a lumberjack.
Yep.
Really hot girlfriend next to him, the whole deal, you know. Just being a dick to one new comedian after another. And, of course, as new comedians went, they're, like, holding me off to the end, you know. And Nagel's like, yeah, because Nagel's, you know, at the time I was good at, like, and Nagel's like, yeah, you're going to rip him up. And back then I was like, yeah, I'm going to make my, before you knew you could record. If I could have recorded that shit on YouTube, the video.
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, all right. So he puts me up and I get up and the guy's like, blah, blah. I just jump in. Like, whatever, you dumb meathead. You know, I just start, you know, just going, dressing him from his camo on down to his feet, to his chin, to his head. I don't stop.
Just relentless.
And I was like, look, man, it's fine. I mean, listen, I know you beat me up. You're dumb. You're supposed to. I'm a smart guy. I'll probably outsmart you before you ever catch me to beat me up. He goes, oh yeah, we'll see. There's only one exit out of here. And he points to the exit, the thing. And I just take a breath and I look around. And all I can see
Exit signs.
are just exit signs. Yeah, they're all lit up, you know? And I just go, hey, everybody. And I just go like this, and I'm like looking around, and everyone kind of, like, some of the people, they're not the most, but some telegraph, they see it coming. I go, hey, everybody, I think we're all on the same page. Nobody here. Tell Mr. Illiterate over here what the big red signs say. And that was it. The whole fucking place was like, bah! And then I got off stage. I thought he was going to murder me. And he literally got the bottle of Jack Daniels from the bartender behind the thing and just took the whole bottle. And he just sat there making me do shots with them. And I think we're on probably shot 8 or 9. And he started to get like mad again. He's like, you said a thing about my girlfriend. That's when I was getting. I was like, all right, you know, like trying to get out. And then someone's like, oh, hey, I think his name was like Tommy or Frankie. He's like, Frankie, Tom. He's like, so-and-so's caught in the snowbank. And it snowed, you know. And this fucker went out and just
Picked up
the back end of the car on the snow. And I was like, well, that's it.
You're out the back door.
Dude, I left my jacket there. I had to drive all the way out to Beckett later that week, in the middle of the week, to get my jacket. I was like, at the middle of the day, too, because I was like, I'm not running.
It was
Beckett.
not soiled by naked waitresses.
Yeah.
No. That's another myth that everyone has. You know,
Is that the same jacket that?
Is that the same jacket that you lost at the other club?
People have that weird. Yeah, no, that's funny. That's a good callback. But yeah, no, it's a weird business. But yeah, you get hecklers once in a while. But as you get farther onto shit, like you don't look for it. You know, like, oh God. Unless you're really bombing, those are the times it sucks, because you're bombing and like the crowd senses like, I know he's probably pretty good at this, but he's just not funny right now. So they have a weird thing, like their energy is kind of like, we're trying to help you. Just say something funny.
It's the insult to injury.
Right.
Part.
Yeah.
But no one, they're like, they feel bad that they won't heckle. And those are usually the ones where you're like, I just wish a motherfucker would right now. Like, just say something so I can jump on this, you know?
But so mental note, when when they're bombing, throw them a bone.
Yeah.
No, don't do that either, because that's another thing that happens to you. You start bombing, and then someone's like, I was just trying to help. And you're like, oh, thanks. Thanks. It was awesome. It was such great help. Yeah. You're better off, when in doubt, at a comedy show to just sit there, smile, enjoy the show. Even if you're not enjoying the show, do the comic a favor. Pretend you're enjoying the show.
Yeah.
Don't do this with your body language. Don't cross your arms and sit like
the crossing
this
the arms. Yep.
on your phone the whole time. Whispering to your girlfriend or whatever. Just
Tough,
leave.
because I'm like a natural arm crosser, like for no
Me too.
reason.
Me too. I'm doing it right now.
Yeah. So we just go do this.
But you're in sales. You understand what that means, right?
Oh, yeah.
Sales and comedy have a big overlap. Cross your arms is like, I'm closed off to you. I don't really care.
Sure.
It's actually one of the things when you see me do on stage, a lot of times you'll see me, my arms are crossed and I'll hold the microphone like this. And when I'm doing that, that's me reacting to the audience energy a lot. And I realize like I'm really communicating a bad message to them.
Yeah.
Like I should be more open.
Sure.
But then also sometimes when I really hate the crowd, I purposely cross my hands and I'm just like, I fucking hate all of you. Like I hate all of you.
I feel like there's a couple comedians that kind of do that. Like,
Yeah.
On a regular basis.
Cross around. Yeah, well, I'm sure anyone.
Yeah.
When you've been doing it a lot, it's a funny thing. Whatever you do, the longer you've been in this, whatever you do, somebody's going to have this take where they're like, that's really, oh, did you slap your leg with you? That's a Chappelle thing. It's like, you're like, okay, all right. You sat down on the stool. That's Big J. Okerson. That's a Big J. Okerson thing. It's like, yeah, no, okay, yeah. I had some. I think Bill crosses his arms sometimes. Burr, I think he crosses it.
Yep.
I had this girl one time come up to me. I said something to somebody, and I just go fuck yourself, And she comes up to me and she goes, I just wanted you to. I didn't want you to, get busted for doing someone else's material, but I go, what joke did I do? Because I don't. And she's like, you said. Go fuck yourself.
Oh God!
But I was in like Indiana or something. I go, Iowa. I was in Iowa. I go, oh sweetie, that's because you live in the middle of a cornfield. Like in New England, we're born.
Yeah.
Like I think you probably say your first "go fuck yourself" somewhere after learning how to say dad and mom, right?
Yeah, those are first words.
Yeah.
First word
It's like-
material.
Yeah,
It's
Duncan, and then go fuck yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, if you're
But-
from Chicopee, Cabasa might come before it.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
Right.
There are exceptions to the rule, but
But there's
Yeah.
it's like a weird thing that like these, people have a thing where they think it's like, come on, man, you're looking for something where there's not something,
right. Yeah.
But then sometimes you watch people blatantly and you're like, oh, God. It's like, ugh. But what are you going to do?
Yeah. All right, guys, we are at the 2-hour mark.
Oh, shit. See that?
Oh,
I was
yeah.
like, we should do a quick one. That's right.
So go ahead and plug your where everybody can find you on your Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all that jazz.
Sure. My Instagram could really use it. My Twitter, sure. And my TikTok, I just started because I'm fucking a 40-something-year-old man who's going to be dancing in front of a camera to get people to come to shows if I need to.
That's okay. It's an endless abyss every night before I go to bed on TikTok. Yeah.
It is a rabbit hole once you go down it. So I'm... my handle is Marty, as in McFly, M-A-R-T-Y. My last name is Caproni, cap like a baseball cap, Roni like rice-a-roni. You can find me on Instagram. You can find me on Twitter. You can find me on TikTok. You can even find me on Facebook, my personal friend page. But the only thing I'll say is if you send me a friend request, in the little message part, just be like, saw you on Can't Handle the Proof. So if they don't say Can't Handle the Proof, I'm not going to accept it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if they saw it on here, then I'll accept it. But that's probably the best place to find me. And then if you can, Good Advice for Bad Ideas podcast is coming out March 15th. The first 3 episodes are going to drop that day. They're good ones. A sex worker, scamming your way into movies, and robbing banks. So
Phenomenal idea, by the way.
Yeah.
Great. I love it.
yeah.
Can't wait.
So that's going to drop on the 15th. We do have social media for that too, where clips and stuff will be going up. That is, you can go to Instagram. It's Good Advice for Bad Ideas. That is the handle there. That's really all I have going on at this juncture. Come about a month and a half or so, we might have some more local shows back at my buddy's place if all things go well. So other than that, that's about it. That's all I have.
Well, I very much appreciate you coming on and supporting me and my new adventure.
Yeah, man. Congratulations with this. This is a great setup and everything. You guys are really. This is a very classy podcast setup.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that very much.
Yeah, this is you're gonna do some good stuff here. I think.
Hope so. I mean, guys like you who come on and help support me, I really can't thank you enough. And it's been a series of like good people getting hold of good people to come in. I'm so humbled by that, because I really, in my mind, I'm thinking, who's gonna want to hear this bald guy talk shit on Facebook? And
well, dude, you're lucky. We're in the middle of a pandemic, bro. People literally want to listen to anything. They can't go out half the time, so they're like, so then you provide a entertaining podcast, and you're an entertaining guy to listen to. You'll keep growing. You just got to keep, like I say, keep steady, keep doing what you guys are doing, keep getting people. I'll come back anytime you want. Tina said she when she's feeling better, she's like, we have to do a show together, an episode. I was like, absolutely, So,
well, whatever I can do to give back to you, you let me know, and we'll be there.
I appreciate it, man.
Absolutely.
Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it, Brett. Thank you very much for the hooch.
My pleasure.
Cheers.
All right, Brett, let them know.
Oh, yeah. So, as always, I'll promote my family business, IQ Inc., and embroidery. We do everything from 1 shirt to 1,000 shirts and more. We can be found online, iq-inc.com, Facebook/IQ Incs. And also promote my son's business, the 19-year-old entrepreneur, bluebeeapparel.com, where he drops exclusive limited run apparel. And he donates 10% of his profits to saving the bees, to the Honeybee Conservancy. Sorry. So yeah, that's all I got.
Helping out. So don't forget rainbowrescues.org. Please donate as much as you can, whatever you can, whenever you can.
Save some dogs. Adopt, don't shop, you pricks.
That's right. You heard it here first. And we can't forget about Chris Bordeaux from Bordeaux & Sons Flooring, located in Ludlow, Mass, for all your flooring needs.
Flooring and podcast walls.
That son of a bitch is in Aruba right now, so fuck him.
Living the dream.
Yeah.
His wife's got a new job.
Yep. I love the kid to death, and I'm glad he's doing well. So, And again, thank you for coming on.
Yep.
I can't thank you enough
Thanks for having me, guys.
for coming on and supporting us. So, as always, peace.
Peace.